Chapter 1368. But the growth of the nine-tailed mantis shrimp really shocked Han Fei. With a swoosh, it had already reached level 59. Even a rocket couldn't be so fast. In his eyes, information emerged. Name: nine-tailed mantis shrimp. Introduction: a mutant mantis shrimp with fast speed and strong attack ability. It is good at hiding itself and sneaking up on prey. Its 9 tails turn into 9 divine chains and it's extremely powerful. Level 59. Quality: legendary, contains spiritual energy greater than 29,998 points. Food: omnivorous, prefers shrimps. Battle skills: void chain, 9-tailed soul stab. Remarks: current status. Growth period. Seeing Han Fei's shock, Tranquility said, "This mantis shrimp has the strongest combat talent. In the entire Sea of Holes battlefield, as long as it could fight, it had basically fought all of them. It has fought more than once against those beyond its strength. It once charged at the Sea Spirit Army alone. That scene was almost comparable to the scene when you fought against 100 people alone." Han Fei's eyelids twitched. Looking at the cheeky 9-tailed mantis shrimp, he thought to himself, "Is this guy really so powerful? I thought it only knew how to dig holes." But even so, Han Fei still felt that it was too fast to jump 3 levels at once. However, Tranquility said casually, "The Insect King once gave it guidance for a few days." Han Fei raised his eyebrows. "Got it?" Owing the Insect King a favor, Han Fei couldn't help but say, "I don't seem to be very familiar with the Insect King." "The Insect King is half a king." Han Fei was puzzled. "What do you mean?" "In the eyes of some people, you are a quasi-king. You don't have to worry too much about it." Han Fei nodded slightly and then kicked the 9-tailed mantis shrimp. "It's enough here. It's time to return to our own world." With a thought from Han Fei, the 9-tailed mantis shrimp disappeared into his body. Han Fei looked at Tranquility. Ignoring the exclaiming insects, he asked Tranquility where the dog had gone. Tranquility said, "In the Dark Warport. You went to see Her Majesty when you came back, so you went straight to the void." Well, it's right there." Han Fei thought, not bad. The Dark Warport had always been one of the most intense battlefields in the Waterwood Heaven. Being able to survive there for so long, this simp couldn't be any worse than the 9-tailed mantis shrimp. Without much delay, he took the teleportation array. His current speed was not slow at all. In fact, Peaceful no longer treated him like a normal explorer. Instead, she treated him like a venerable one. Han Fei could barely keep up. Dark Warport, dark water. It was a dark water area that was covered by the seaborne prairie. A great disaster had happened here, resulting in all kinds of weird rocks and caves. Everything that one could imagine could be found in this place. Later on, perhaps because of the Cloud Sea Divine Tree, the spirit plants here flourished and covered the land again. However, the water here was very deep, and there were very few coral reefs. Most of them were deep ravines. There were huge rattan algae growing from the bottom of the sea to the surface of the sea, and most of them were aquatic plants floating in the middle of the water. A transparent algae eel was moving quietly under an oily reef full of ordinary sea snails. The dark water domain was the common battlefield of the Waterwood Sky and the White Shell Kingdom. Therefore, the creatures here did not mind being attacked by explorer-level creatures at all. In fact, in this place, only those of the same realm could look for those of the same realm. Even if a law enforcer encountered a sea demon, he wouldn't attack. Of course, if a sea demon launched a sneak attack on a law enforcer, he would be able to fight back. The creatures that came here all knew that this was more of a form of training. If a sea demon reached the peak level of the sea spirit level here, they would retreat from the fearless barrier, and the fearless tree would not attack them. Because this was the arena of both sides, and it was the default rule. At this moment, the transparent algae eel's target was a bird, although it didn't know why a bird appeared at the bottom of the sea. Meow, meow. Yes, when Han Fei heard the meow, he knew that it was a lackey. However, he didn't know when this guy would turn into a bird. The transparent algae eel moved very slowly. It thought that it was already a peak-level sea demon, and the big bird seemed much weaker than it. In an instant, the transparent algae eel attacked. However, when it pounced, it actually pounced on empty air. When it looked back, it saw a monster staring at it with round eyes. Where was the bird? Realizing something, the transparent algae eel tried to run away. However, it blocked the way with its wings and pressed its paw, almost killing the transparent algae eel. That wasn't all. With a swoosh, this guy disappeared and appeared again in the next moment. The lackey was carrying a sea urchin, a starfish, and a roll of seaweed. Han Fei was confused. What was this guy doing? What happened next almost dumbfounded Han Fei. This guy tore off the skin of the transparent algae eel with its paw, took out the sea urchin, peeled the starfish, and rolled the seaweed. Then, it lay on the ground like a dead dog and began to eat. Peaceful immediately said, "It must have learned from you." It said that the beasts are best at imitating. Han Fei thought to himself, "I've never cooked for a lackey before. It's not like it's learning from me. It's self-taught." He regarded the transparent algae eel as a snack. Before he finished it, a shrimp soldier swam close. It was only a beginner sea demon. The lackey's ears pricked up when it was still far away, and it stood up with a swish. Han Fei thought to himself, "It's quite vigilant. 3,000 meters away should be far beyond its range of perception. Not bad." Peaceful chuckled. "Just keep watching." The lackey stuck out its tongue and wagged its tail, before it disappeared with a swish. Han Fei spread out his senses again, only to find that it was already before the shrimp soldier. So fast. Is this the sky escape technique? Han Fei was lost for words. You're using your secret technique to hunt regular low-level shrimp soldiers? In the next moment, the lackey slapped the shrimp soldier's face. The shrimp soldier was stunned. I've never seen such a creature before. Moreover, that figure seemed to be much larger than him. The shrimp soldier quickly roared, "Don't forget the rules. This is the dark water. You can't attack each other if your level is too high." Smack! Bootlicker slapped the shrimp soldier with his paw again, causing it to fall to the ground. The shrimp soldier roared angrily, "You want to break the rules?" Smack! That's not the purpose of an adventure. This is a competition. We must be fair. Smack! The lackey slapped the shrimp soldier a dozen times in a row and suddenly said, "Take off your shrimp shell, and I'll let you go." The shrimp soldier? The shrimp soldier said, "You're bullying me. Taking off my shrimp shell means taking away half of my life. Are you doing this on purpose so that other creatures can kill me? Experts behind me are coming. If you want to fight, find someone who is as strong as you." Han Fei also said, "Is this damn dog breaking the rules by doing this?" Peaceful nodded. "Yes, but it's not a big problem. I acquiesce. Also, this dog must be very cautious." There was indeed someone behind the shrimp soldier. It was an octopus in the sea spirit level. It was swimming close while wrapped in seaweed. The dog licked the shrimp soldier with his paw and knocked the shrimp soldier's head crooked. Then he grabbed the shrimp soldier's whiskers. The dog bit down, and the silly dog actually spun in circles at an extremely fast speed. At this moment, the lackey suddenly loosened its mouth and threw the shrimp soldier away. Han Fei was confused. What has it been doing here for so long? Playing. Playing? As expected, in the next moment, Simp Dog's figure leaped up and returned to its nest. It lay on the ground and actually turned into a fish. Wait, why did the lackey turn into a fish? What kind of ability was that? But why did you leave a dog head on the outside after you turned into a fish? The head of a dog and the lower body of a fish was too shocking. The lackey was lying on its belly and sucking the food it had just made. After a while, the lackey seemed to notice that an enemy was coming. It immediately turned into a fish head, lay on the ground, and whipped the seabed with its tail. It seemed that the lackey was like a salted fish at this moment. But the danger didn't go away. The shrimp soldier had indeed brought a sea spirit level octopus here. When the octopus found the lackey, it was slightly surprised to see that the lackey was lying on its belly. It wondered who killed it? Or was it playing dead? Right when the octopus was about to slap the lackey, fearing that it was a trap, the lackey was gone with a swish. Han Fei scanned with his perception, only to find that the lackey quickly ran to another nest more than 30 kilometers away and lay there again. Han Fei asked again, "What is it doing?" "That's also its nest." There are many of its nests here. It's a coward that only dares to bully the weak and fear the strong. It found that the octopus was in the sea spirit level and left. Han Fei was lost for words. That's it? Peaceful, yes. That's it. Han Fei glanced at the octopus that had just entered the sea spirit level and thought to himself, are you a fucking ancient mutant? Why are you afraid of it? On the other side, the lackey had already caught a sea urchin. The dog flipped its body over and used the sea urchin as a ball, kicking it between its four paws. Han Fei's face immediately turned dark. I told you to cultivate, but you're just here for fun? How capable were you when you bullied the shrimp soldier just now? Why didn't you dare to attack me now that the octopus was here? Swish. Han Fei jumped out and was about to kick it, but his foot was stuck in the air. Damn it, am I hallucinating? Han Fei saw an extremely weird message. Name's Heavenly Hound, introduction, an ancient mutant that likes to live in the muddy water and Een mountains. It looks like a white dog but has a black head. Its voice is changeable and it often uses cat sounds to reduce its sense of threat. The Heavenly Hound has a pair of wings with blue feathers that can twist the void. Its escape skills are extremely fast. It's good at stealth and likes to bully the weak. The Heavenly Hound can swallow the sky and the sun, but it needs to be stimulated passively. Level 60 quality, ancient mutant, law enforcement, water barrier, contains spiritual energy, can swallow unlimited spirits, food, omnivorous, prefers meat, combat skills, sky escape technique, heavenly devil body, remarks, childhood. The lackey was startled and fled the moment Han Fei appeared. Han Fei rubbed his eyes and shouted, "Get back here!" Master? Master, you're back. Master? Master, I missed you so much. Master, is there anything to eat? Master? Han Fei ignored the lackey and looked at Peaceful. Peaceful curled her lips and said, that's what happened. It eats every day, every day. It's always eating, but for some reason, its strength has been improving rapidly. Her Majesty said that maybe this is its Tao. It can become stronger even while lying down. Han Fei, Baji. The lackey stood up, stuck out its big tongue, and was about to lie on Han Fei's body. With a thought, Han Fei immediately took it in. Han Fei asked, it's getting stronger even while sleeping? Serenity said, you don't say. It can be invisible. It sleeps half the day. Han Fei couldn't help covering his head. Forget it. I don't have time to study this now. I really have to go back. The third chapter took 1 day longer than expected. Tomorrow, end of this chapter. Chapter 1369. Han Fei had been in the Shuemu heaven for almost 3 years. Except for the first few days, Han Fei stayed here to transcend the tribulation. After that, Han Fei didn't stay in the Cloud Sea Divine Tree for long. To be honest, Han Fei wasn't familiar with the Cloud Sea Divine Tree. He still found it novel to see things here and there. In the area below the Cloud Sea Divine Tree, the old Treant named Qian Shu was still in class, but the students had probably changed again. As a matter of fact, as soon as the class started, they were already chattering nonstop. A bug buzzed, Grandpa Tree, I heard that Uncle Han Fei challenged the king in front of the Dark War port a while ago. Is this true? A little Treant was also curious. Grandpa Tree, I heard that the genius of our demonic plant clan, Baimu, was defeated by the sea demons? 3 golden-feathered sparrows hopped around and chattered, I heard that Han Fei is from the Sky Clan. A human child immediately disagreed. Nonsense. He's clearly from the human clan. A golden-feathered sparrow said, then why? I heard that he's not good-looking? He must be from the Sky Clan. A human girl snorted. Impossible. He's just not that good-looking. 3 years ago, a few unsightly people came to our Star Division. Achoo, in the human settlement, the Star Division. On a leaf of the Cloud Sea Divine Tree, a young man sneezed heavily. The young man's expression immediately tensed up. I actually sneezed? Beside him, a valiant girl asked, Xingyu, what's wrong? Xingyu shook his head slightly. Nothing. I just sneezed. Among the people sitting on a few Cloud Sea Divine Tree leaves, a beautiful girl suddenly opened her eyes. Chi-Chi, I just heard news about senior brother Han Fei in the great illusionary land. The young man who woke up later said, "We are too weak, and senior brother can already kill a peak stage Dao-seeking great demon with one punch. His strength is obvious. The most important thing right now is that we can't be a burden to senior brother." On the leaf, a girl with the smallest head, who was unsmiling but cute, snorted. "Su Sanqian, go to the whole sea." Su Sanqian curled his lips. "Su Daiji, I'm your brother." "Su Daiji, all the more reason to go. When I become a venerable, I will beat all of senior brother's enemies into iron-headed fish." If Han Fei were here, he would definitely be surprised that Su Daiji and the other 4 who were taken away by Diwu Glimmer actually lived on this Cloud Sea Divine Tree. As long as he stayed in the Cloud Sea Divine Tree for a little longer, as long as he wandered around the various human tribes, there was an 80% chance that he would meet them. Although there were too many humans, his junior brothers and sisters were too famous. As long as Han Fei came to this tribe, he would definitely meet them. Whether it was the Life Queen's arrangement or pure coincidence, since Han Fei did not meet them, no one mentioned this to him. On the contrary, Su Daiji and the others all knew clearly that Han Fei had reached the level of challenging the kings in the Waterwood Heaven. And Han Fei's face was black at this moment. This was the second time in 3 years that he had come to the demonic forest passage, and he heard people talking about him again. This time, when the teleportation array lit up, everyone's eyes were immediately attracted. They thought to themselves, "Who is disturbing me during class?" But immediately after, everyone reacted and exclaimed, "Han Fei, he's Han Fei." To these children, Han Fei seemed to be too unique. Therefore, they could recognize him at a glance. Han Fei's expression immediately turned ugly. Many people hurriedly covered their mouths. The Zerg hooked their mouths with their claws, the tree men used their branches to cover their faces, and the sky race used their wings to cover their entire bodies. Only the human youths were dumbfounded. There was also a young man who hurriedly bowed in shock. "Greetings, Envoy Jing." Everyone came back to their senses and said, "Greetings, Envoy Jing." Seeing that Jing and Han Fei had arrived together, the old tree man seemed to have expected something. He immediately said slowly, "Children, class ends early today. Take a day off." If it were any other day, everyone would naturally be happy to have a holiday. But these few days they still wanted to stay. However, they were all sensible children. As soon as they saw Han Fei, they roughly knew what Han Fei wanted to do. This was the passage between the two worlds. The old tree man had mentioned the Waterwood Heaven and the Yin-Yang Heaven more than once. Although the old tree ant knew very little about the Yin-Yang sky, he did have some understanding of some ancient records. Besides, the last time Han Fei came here, he said that the human race of the Yin-Yang Heaven was at war. Therefore, in the subsequent classes, the old tree man also mentioned it a lot. The human youths immediately understood. "I hope that Master Han Fei can defeat the sea demons and revitalize the human race." A girl's eyes flickered. "I hope that Master Han Fei can become a human king as soon as possible, wipe out the sea demons and settle the war." Master Han Fei. For a moment, the human youths all talked at once. Although they were immature, their expressions were quite serious. In the Waterwood Heaven, the human race was in decline. The 4 clans lived under the Cloud Sea Divine Tree. Although the atmosphere was harmonious, they were rootless. In order to survive, the humans here had given up many things that humans should have. They didn't even know what land was. Although this price brought them the advantage of being handsome, it also made them evolve into another branch of the human race. Fortunately, it hadn't been a long time, so the characteristics of the human race were still greatly preserved. Han Fei nodded slightly. "Okay. When I return to the Yin-Yang Heaven, wipe out the sea demons, and let the human race rise again, I will come again." The students left one after another, and old man Qian Shu sighed slowly. "Emissary Jing, I'll release Wuya now." Jinger nodded slightly. "Qian Shu, Wuya has been there for more than 10,000 years, right?" Qian Shu said leisurely, "More than 12,000 years. He should have received the corresponding punishment for all the things he did before." Han Fei was slightly shocked. This was a demon plant. It could easily live for more than 10,000 years. However, hearing that Wu Ye was being punished, Han Fei couldn't help but be curious. Was Senior Wu Ye punished to guard the demon plant channel? Jing'e said, at that time, the demon plant clan was in decline, and Wu Ye practiced evil arts and stole the power of the Cloud Sea Divine Tree. Her Majesty punished him to guard the demon plant channel, and when the demon plant channel is needed in the future, his sin will be pardoned. Han Fei raised his eyebrows. That's quite a harsh punishment. More than 10,000 years. 3 generations of explorers would probably die of old age. Qian Shu said, I also participated in what happened back then. From now on, it's my turn to guard that place. Qian Shu said very calmly as if he had been preparing for this for a long time. Han Fei thought that a peak-level explorer, or even a demi-venerable, was teaching here, and he seemed to understand something. However, this was someone else's family business. The Life Queen didn't think it was a big deal, so Han Fei didn't ask further. Jing'e said, it's been so long. Wu Ye's punishment should be enough. Let him out. Whether this demon forest channel can be opened depends on you, Han Fei. Han Fei thought to himself, I won't open this demon forest channel before I have the power to fight against a king. Unless you come to help me. Han Fei said, no problem. When I'm in charge of the Yin-Yang Heaven, I'll open this road. Han Fei didn't give a clear answer, and the Yin-Yang Heaven that Han Fei said would probably be a demi-venerable or even a king. In Qian Shu's view, it was almost impossible for him to do that without thousands of years. Therefore, he had already prepared to sleep in the demon forest channel for a while. The roots of the 1,000 trees pierced out hundreds of origin points in the air. The strange combination of patterns gradually lit up the ancient teleportation array not far away. With a burst of light, the teleportation array opened, and a withered branch slowly stretched out from it. Qian Shu said, Wu Ye, it's been more than 10,000 years. You can come out now. The old voice of the leafless tree swayed slightly. Thank you, Your Majesty. Wu Ye knows that he has sinned. Now that I'm out, I'll teach here like Qian Shu, okay? The Life Queen's voice sounded softly. Okay. Hearing the Life Queen's words, Han Fei saw that after the withered branch stretched out, the surrounding spiritual energy gathered crazily. Then, the withered vine swelled and grew big branches. Green leaves covered this place at a speed visible to the naked eye. After a while, the leafless tree appeared. However, the leafless tree at this time was completely different from the one he saw in the Demon Forest Channel. If the leafless tree in the Demon Forest Channel was a withered and dying tree, then, the one in front of him seemed to be in its youth, lush, full of leaves. A massive amount of spiritual energy was gathering, and the Life Queen's voice rippled. Perception is forbidden here. Han Fei felt that the aura of the leafless tree began to soar wildly. From the demonization realm to the sea demon realm in an instant, then to the sea spirit realm, and then to the explorer. He didn't even need to go through the heavenly tribulation. Even so, his strength was still soaring. The Life Queen gave him an immeasurable fruit and poured a spiritual spring into it. She continued, You're stuck in the demi-venerable realm and are not allowed to make a breakthrough. Suppress your strength so that you can make a breakthrough in battle in the future. The branches of the leafless tree swayed. Yes, Your Majesty. After that, Leafless looked at Han Fei. I'm afraid that there will be changes in the Yin-Yang Heaven. You'd better go back early. Han Fei's face suddenly changed. Changes? The Demon Forest Channel has never been connected to the Yin-Yang Heaven. How do you know that? There will be changes in the Yin-Yang Heaven? The leafless tree's voice was leisurely. Have you forgotten who sent you out? Although I can't investigate too much, something may have been dug out from the Demon Forest Channel, where you went out before. It was too noisy, so I went out to have a look. Han Fei asked eagerly, Do you know what happened? The leafless tree's branches trembled. I don't know. However, since the noise can be transmitted to the Demon Forest Channel, it should be a big one. Han Fei said solemnly, Let's not delay. I'll go back first. The Qian tree said, Please come with me. Chapter 1370. Demon Forest Channel. As soon as Peaceful entered this place, she was nervous. What a strong seal. Han Fei glanced at Peaceful. Her aura had quickly dropped from the venerable realm to the demon transformation realm. It was no wonder that her expression was so tense. If someone attacked her at this time, the consequences would be unpredictable. However, Peaceful was only a little surprised, and then she breathed a sigh of relief. It's not completely suppressed. My realm is suppressed, and part of my physical power can't be used. However, the characteristics of a venerable are still there. I can still be reborn from a single drop of blood, and my physique is not weak to the demon transformation realm. Han Fei also felt that his physical power, except for his own unique strength, had all disappeared. However, Han Fei didn't panic. If there was no accident, his current physique should be stronger than Jing Er's. For those who didn't follow the path of body refinement entering this place, not only would their realms drop, but even their physique would drop by at least 2 realms. The difference between body refinement and non-body refinement was reflected here. After entering here, Han Fei was about to ask how to get out, but then he saw the leafless tree with only 2 branches left here. Qian Shu explained, "Leafless has been here for too long." He was so bored that his broken body gave birth to a new body, so he left his broken body here. With that, Qian Shu waved his vine hand casually, and the 2 branches were broken. Qian Shu handed one of the branches to Han Fei and said, "In the future, with this branch alone, you can open the way to the demon forest in the nearby area." Han Fei said, "Senior Qian Shu, be careful when guarding this place. The sea demons also have a way to enter this place. Although they are only in the demon transformation realm, Senior Leafless has broken several branches." Qian Shu said unhurriedly, "Not really. The reason why Leafless branches were broken is that most of his power was used to give birth to a new body. Within 1,000 years, I won't give birth to a new body, so if the sea demons dare to attack, I won't let them succeed." Hearing this, Han Fei immediately breathed a sigh of relief. However, on second thought, actually, it doesn't matter if they succeed. The opposite side is the Cloud Sea Divine Tree, which has many strong masters. They can easily crush them to death. Qian Shu, sea monsters, don't even think about tarnishing the Cloud Sea Divine Tree. Ning Jing said, "It's nothing more than killing a few more sea demons. It's not very meaningful, so there's no need to lure them out. Furthermore, this is your problem, not our Shuemu skies." Han Fei shrugged and said, "Senior Qian Shu, please send us out." Thousand Tree could not help but look at Peaceful. "Serenity, you too," Peaceful said, "this is the Queen's arrangement. You don't have to say anything." "Yes, Silent Messenger." Qian Shu probably knew the leafless tree very well, so he picked up a branch and a blue light bloomed in his hand. However, the small branch pierced through the air like a stick striking the sky, opening up a crack. Seeing this method, Han Fei frowned. Although the Qian Shu looked gentle and had taught for so many years, the Qian Shu was more direct and violent than the leafless tree. Of course, Wu Yi had been here for too long, and it was conceivable that some of his spirit had been worn down. Han Fei didn't take it seriously and looked at Peaceful. With a whoosh, the 2 of them disappeared into the passageway. The moment they went out to sea, Han Fei scanned with his perception. Because the range wasn't large, nothing special happened. This place was close to the 10,000 Demon Valley, about hundreds of thousands of kilometers away. It was not unusual to see ordinary sea demons hunting for treasures. Even Peaceful's perception couldn't extend to the 10,000 Demon Valley at once. However, Peaceful frowned slightly and looked in the direction of the 10,000 Demon Valley. There are remnants of the sea demon Venerable's aura. In that direction, there is a lot of demonic energy. It should be the place where sea demons gather. Are you going to destroy it? Han Fei's lips twitched. "Don't worry. I just came back and don't know anything. If that place is still the place I know, it won't be too difficult to destroy it. So, I'm not in a hurry." Peaceful nodded. "But now, where are we going?" Han Fei turned his head. "Let's go. Go in that direction. There is a beautiful sea area called the Pearl Divers Port. The coral reefs stretch for hundreds of thousands of kilometers, and pearl divers search for treasures every day. Shall I take you there?" Peaceful's eyes lit up. Pearl divers? What's so interesting about pearls? Han Fei's lips curled up. When the number of any kind of creature reaches a certain level, it will look different. Just take a look. In fact, he was just passing by. He took Peaceful around and patrolled it again. The two of them crossed the void. With Han Fei and Jing Er's speed, it would only take them a few hours to cover the distance of 300,000 to 400,000 kilometers. If they walked fast, it wouldn't even take an hour. Several hours later, when Han Fei saw the Sea of Pearls, he couldn't help but exclaim, "I'm finally back." Sure enough, no matter how good other people's homes are, it's still the best to be at home. However, Han Fei scanned and found something wrong. There were very few pearl divers today, but there were a lot of guards around. There were as many as 10 law enforcers. Seeing that many coral reefs had collapsed, Han Fei immediately thought, not good. Did something happen in the Sea of Pearls? Peaceful said in surprise, "Wow. Such a place is quite peaceful." However, in that direction, there is a weird building emerging from the sea. What's that? Han Fei was intrigued. Was Jing Er's perception so powerful? From this position, it should be more than 50,000 kilometers away from the pearl diver's port. Han Fei said, "That's one of the human settlements. Let's go and take a look." A moment later, hardly had Han Fei arrived when he found that there weren't many people at the pearl diver's port. The pearl diver's port was the main source of income for the Scattered Stars Island. There were so few pearl divers, but so many guardians. At this moment, Han Fei sensed that there were 2 explorers guarding the pearl diver's port. Before, Han Fei wasn't strong enough, so he didn't know exactly how many explorers there were on the Scattered Stars Island. At this moment, Han Fei was already half a venerable, and his soul was even stronger than the so-called peak-level explorers. So, after a brief perception, he found that something was wrong. Peaceful said, "Well, I think something might have happened here. To the east of me, there must have been a great battle." Han Fei's heart immediately became heavy. King Er was pointing at the Scattered Stars Island. Chilla. Paying no more attention to the pearl diver's port or enjoying the scenery, Han Fei simply tore open the void and stepped in. On the Scattered Stars Island. At this moment, a storm was brewing. At this moment, there were more than 50 battlefields, large and small, on the island. It was a full-scale attack on the island, which had been going on for days. Fierce battles were going on along the coast of the Scattered Stars Island. In the offshore area, countless fishing boats were floating in the sky. Explorers were guarding the sky, and law enforcers were commanding the battle from below. Those people's fishing boats were floating in the sky, and they were using hook techniques to kill enemies. It was obvious that they were from the Guild of Fishers. In the waters slightly further away, countless hunters of the pioneers were hiding everywhere, ready to launch a fatal attack at any time. On the coast, almost all the guards of the Scattered Stars Island had been sent out. Some were fighting, and some were resting. It was a cycle. The patrols around the island were too busy to slow down. In the sky above the Scattered Stars Island, they had no time to slow down. They were all running at full speed. In the sky, a fishing boat flew by, and a captain roared, "Hurry up! Hurry up and reinforce the Hell Beach. The scorpions there are exploding." Someone stopped him in midair and roared at the team, "I don't care which team you're from, leave half of your men to me. The Path of Giants is in urgent need of reinforcements." The captain roared, "There's no one. 2 groups of people have been borrowed from our team. Go to the command center and apply for reinforcements." The man roared, "Can't you spare even one person?" Seeing this, the captain immediately took a breath. "Old Wu, you're most familiar with the Path of Giants. You fought there for more than 3 years. Remember, you're not allowed to die." In the team, a middle-aged soul warrior took a deep breath. "Okay, I'll go. Reinforce them as soon as possible." On the Scattered Stars Island, the 5 command centers were already in an uproar. It was because too many people had come to seek a decision. Therefore, in the central city of the Scattered Stars Island, including the central city, all the command centers had been divided into many groups. Some of the smaller battlefields had even been forcibly stationed there. For this reason, Shueishenqi specially emphasized that any major decision made by the members of the command center must be confirmed by their superiors before it could be implemented. Once there was something difficult to solve, no matter how urgent it was, it must be reported to the command center. Of course, this was only the situation on the Scattered Stars Island. Along the coast, a large number of reserve troops were running around, being dispatched and transported away in waves. This also showed that the Scattered Stars Island was actually not the most difficult. After all, there were still backup forces that could continue to fight. However, to the west of the Scattered Stars Island, in the outer sea area, about 5,000 to 10,000 kilometers away from the island, the battle situation was much more complicated. Here, on the human side alone, there were more than 2,000 hidden fishers, more than 100 law enforcers, and more than 10 explorers. They were fighting crazily. On the sea demon's side, the number of people was more than double. The blood here was surging, the waves were surging, and the blood almost contaminated the sea. Puff, someone fought 1 against 2 and was pierced by a harpoon. Seeing that there was no hope of survival, he threw the long sword in his hand and leaned forward. Explode! Song Yi was the captain of a 5-person team. As a manipulator, she and the Spirit Gatherer were the only 2 left in the team. The other 3, the Armorist, the Soul Warrior, and the Hunter, had all died. Not far away, there were at least 3 squads fighting with all their might. They slashed through the waves, attempting to rescue the 2 of them. However, there were dozens of half-mermaids who surrounded them but didn't kill them, using them as bait. Boom! A giant waterman jumped out of the water and attacked, causing the internal organs of the Spirit Gatherer in the team to be shattered, and he could no longer survive. In such a fierce battlefield, once the Spirit Gatherer died, the others' fighting time was limited. However, there were too many sea demons and they kept coming. In desperation, one team could only rush over crazily. Song Yi roared angrily, "Don't come over, don't come over." But as soon as she said this, harpoons swung and whales rushed. The sea god's strike swept across, and the team was instantly annihilated. Next to Song Yi, the Spirit Gatherer shouted, "Song Yi, self-destruct. Otherwise, we will become their tools to lure and kill our comrades." Suddenly, half of the mermaids broke out of the water, holding 2 spears. Because their speed was too fast, they pierced through the 2 in an instant. When the other half-mermaids saw this person, their faces all changed. This half-mermaid had an extraordinary origin and was said to be a heavenly talent of the royal city. His strength was indeed not to be underestimated. And this half-mermaid smiled. "Humph, you want to self-destruct in front of me? I'll let you continue to listen to the wailing of human beings. The human race will eventually perish. Our oceanic race is the supreme ruler of this vast sea region." Just as this half-mermaid carried the 2 people and sighed proudly, a voice suddenly sounded. "The king of fish shit? Go to the 9 nether yellow springs." Who? Chapter 1371. The so-called heavenly talent of the royal city was shocked. This voice suddenly appeared, and he didn't even notice it. "Are there any experts of the same realm on the human side? I heard that you are very arrogant." The half-mermaid was shocked to hear the voice. Without even turning his head, he exerted his strength with both hands, intending to directly press these 2 people and use them to fight. However, he was shocked to find that he couldn't move anymore. The terrifying pressure and dense killing intent were like a head-on blow, directly shaking him to the point his legs went soft. In the void, a voice shouted, "How dare you, an explorer, participate in the battle of sea demons? Do you want to be punished by all of us?" Han Fei grinned. "Punished? Ha, I'm right here. Why don't you try?" Beside him, Song Yi and the little mermaid who were saved by Han Fei looked at Han Fei in astonishment. Song even took a breath. "Are you Han Fei?" Han Fei glanced at him indifferently, thinking that he didn't know him. Turning his head, he made up his mind and took a step forward. In an instant he appeared in front of a sea demon. Han Fei didn't need to do anything at all. He smashed the sea demon with his physical strength. Swish, swish, swish. Han Fei's figure shot out like an arrow, killing a sea demon with every step he took. What kind of bullshit talk about king against king, general against general, soldier against soldier? As long as none of the sea demons could escape, it was not a big deal. Hum. With a flash between Han Fei's eyebrows, the nine-tailed mantis shrimp, little fatty, little gold, little black, and little white appeared one after another. The only one who didn't appear was Simp Dog. On one hand, it was because he had too many contractual spiritual beasts. Although the human side was his ally, he didn't know what would happen if the people in the Thousand-Star City heard about it. Han Fei stepped into the air, and the illusion of mountains and rivers appeared. Han Fei shouted, "Everyone, stop the opponents and don't let them escape." Countless human hidden fissures were stunned. The law enforcers also looked at him. "Who's this? Have we met before? Why are you giving orders?" An explorer asked, "Who are you? Do you know what you are doing? The enemy is several times larger than me. How can you intercept them?" Swish, swish. A blue and a red color appeared at the same time. Han Fei roared, "Water luster, fire seed, block this place. Don't let anyone escape." Then, the green vines spread out from all directions, and the blade light pierced through the air. Tree spirits entangle demons, punishment saber/enemies. Nine-tailed mantis shrimp, little gold, little fatty, attack at will. As he spoke, he activated the Beast King technique, the agility of wind, the Heaven Void Divine Walking technique, and the void lines. Pew. In the battle not far ahead. As soon as they met, the three sea spirits were instantly killed by Han Fei. The three law enforcers who were fighting fiercely with them didn't even see Han Fei's figure. Although the enemies in front of them were moving, when they looked again, they found that their bodies had been split into pieces and they had already died. It was so fast that even these sea spirit realm half-mermaids didn't know it. "Scoundrel, stop. Not good, the newcomer is very strong." In the void, someone had just stepped out. When he saw this scene, he immediately shouted, "Not good, the human race's experts are already unscrupulous. Bullying the weak and breaking the rules? Quickly go back and inform them." Swish. A flash of cold light dazzled between heaven and earth. Before this person had time to escape, he was slaughtered by a sword strike. In the sky, someone could see a corner of the outside world. Seeing this, he sneered, "Shueshenshi is lawless. He's announcing the arrival of the war in advance. Retreat." Among the humans, a middle-aged man was surprised to see the person who attacked. "Is that Han Fei?" He had met Han Fei before. Although it was just a meeting, he used to work for Shueshenshi. He naturally knew that Shueshenshi's attitude towards Han Fei was unusual. He had been present outside the primordial battlefield back then. It was all because Han Fei obtained the sea-quelling painting that the Venerable beat up many strong masters of the Thousand-Star City. It could be seen that Han Fei's identity was not ordinary. At this moment, Shueshenshi was not here, so he was in charge of this place. He immediately shouted, "Everyone, entangle the opponents. Don't let anyone go." And as soon as this person's voice fell, in the void, a shadow passed by. A spear radiant struck, and a high-level Dao-seeking realm great demon exploded in an instant. In an instant, many Dao-seeking state demons panicked. "Where is he? Why don't I see anyone?" Unfortunately, when all of their senses swept over, they still didn't find anyone. Even the humans were dumbfounded. What kind of means is this? Is there an unknown strong master who has taken action? But Jing saw it clearly in the distance. In her view, the battlefield in front of her was not very big. In the Sea of Flames or the Dark War port, such battlefields were common. However, at this moment, there was a huge gap in strength between the two sides. Han Fei tried to change the situation of this battle alone and didn't want anyone to escape. Even someone who just entered the Exalt realm might not be able to accomplish such a feat in particular. Han Fei's sneak attack in the void almost fooled her. When her perception swept across the void, she found a humanoid black shadow in the normal void. That figure had no physical body at all. It was just a void. If it hadn't attacked just now, she wouldn't have noticed it. An incarnation? Jing? or was a little dumbfounded. Where did this incarnation come from? What was this external incarnation made of? She had been with the queen for so long and had heard a lot of incarnation methods. But she had never seen this one. When the two Tao-seeking state demons died, everyone was just surprised, but they didn't retreat. They should have had a chance to retreat. At the beginning, even if Han Fei attacked with all his strength, and the human explorers wanted to entangle him, someone would definitely escape from here. But at this moment, Han Fei's white mist body had already stepped into the void. With a sweep of the sword-drawing technique and a turn of the stars, in an instant, another two Tao-seeking great demons died. And this was just the result of the white mist body. The black mist body was even more amazing, killing the enemy invisibly. The sound of tearing and explosions echoed. Anyway, at the moment when Han Fei entered the void, 5 Tao-seeking state demons died. That number scared everyone silly. Someone shouted, "Run away!" However, that person only had time to shout out before he was enveloped by a black fog that suddenly descended. He felt that his vitality was flowing away crazily. On the human side, no matter whether Han Fei was sneak attacking or not, anyway, in the blink of an eye, he had killed 8 Tao-seeking state demons in a row. This strength was so terrifying that people couldn't look at it directly. The leader roared, "Kill! None of you are allowed to leave." There was no need for this person to say anything. In fact, someone had already done so. Even if they burned their essence blood and consumed their vitality, they had to keep the opponent for a while. At least, this group of people on the Scattered Stars Island was definitely united. How could they let go of the opportunity to kill the enemy? And in Han Fei's heart, the old turtle's voice said, "Finish the battle quickly." With so many Tao-seeking state demons dying, the opponent's venerable will definitely notice. Swish, swish, swish. With the agility of wind and the heaven void divine walking technique, Han Fei was extremely fast. There was no semi-venerable powerhouse here, not even a peak-level Tao-seeking cultivator. What if Han Fei let them escape? How humiliating would he be in front of Jing? After all, the strongest here was just a guy in the same realm as him, not even half a realm higher than him. Han Fei didn't even know where these Tao-seeking state demons came from. In the 10,000 Demon Valley, only Blue Feather was at the peak-level Tao-seeking. Or rather, he might be a semi-venerable. Among the other 8 wings of Blue Feather, only Chen Yin-ing, who ranked first, had broken through to the Tao-seeking state. Jiao Honghai, who ranked second, was crushed by old Zhang's array. Hailv Changfeng, who ranked third, might have broken through to the Tao-seeking state. However, it had only been a few years. Of course, those were the powerhouses of the 10,000 Demon Valley that Han Fei knew. And these people in front of him, he had never seen or known any of them. Besides, there were more than 10 Tao-seeking state demons. Something was definitely wrong. Han Fei's first reaction was that there was also a royal city in the Yin-Yang heaven. When he was in the 10,000 Demon Valley, many people used going to the royal city as bait to lure people to cultivate and become stronger. Puff! Under the encirclement of the two, Han Fei suddenly appeared and blew up the last one with a punch. Then he stepped out of the void with an ugly look on his face. The 10,000 Demon Valley is indeed no longer the original 10,000 Demon Valley. In an instant, he killed more than a dozen Tao-seeking state demons. This was the source of Han Fei's confidence. This was the power of a semi-venerable. Ordinary semi-venerables couldn't compare with Han Fei's strength. In the sea, the 9-tailed mantis shrimp and the punishing saber were the fastest at killing sea demons. Han Fei saw that the 9-tailed mantis shrimp's latest inherited combat skill was the 9-tailed soul stab, which was extremely extraordinary. The 9 tails turned into 9 void spears, stabbing one demon at a time. Among the 9 stabs, at most one could survive. The one who survived was only able to protect his soul. But even so, he couldn't withstand the second stab of the 9-tailed mantis shrimp. Although Little Gold couldn't use the new combat skill, his wings were sharp and his speed was extremely fast. Wherever he passed, the sea demons were all shattered. Even semi-divine weapons couldn't stop Little Gold's sweeping wings. Although little Fatty was slow to resist the enemy, it was indeed the most terrifying one. Every time the sucker caught a sea demon would die. The failure rate was 0. As for the punishing saber and water luster, because they were both explorers, their speed of killing enemies was extremely fast. Especially the punishing saber, he shuttled back and forth like a shadow and almost collapsed the battlefield. The battlefield was originally extremely unbalanced, but under the charge of the punishing saber and the nine-tailed mantis shrimp, it wasn't an exaggeration to say that they were harvesting wheat. Seeing this, Han Fei grabbed several Dao-seeking state demons with one hand and shouted, "The sea demon powerhouses are dead. Kill them all. Don't leave a single one alive." At this moment, some human powerhouses came over. Among them, the middle-aged man who had seen Han Fei said, "Han Fei, this is not appropriate. The enemy's powerhouses must have known and must be on their way." Chapter 1372. This battle went on very quickly. Han Fei wasn't worried about how fast the sea demon venerable would come. At least within a radius of 100,000 kilometers, there shouldn't be a very powerful sea demon venerable. The only thing that bothered Han Fei was that the old turtle said that there were 2 semi-venerables or beginners fighting 50,000 kilometers away. In fact, this was not a threat at all. Otherwise, according to Peaceful's character, even if she didn't take action, she would tell him. Moreover, with the old turtle's perception of heaven's secrets, he didn't feel threatened even though he had calculated with his fingers. Therefore, Han Fei was sure that this seemingly huge battlefield was actually just a super large-scale local battle. Perhaps, the real purpose of the sea demons was to consume the basic combat power of human beings. Therefore, even though this battle seemed to be on a large scale, it was just a large-scale attack by the sea demons, the same situation as the Shuemu Sky. For the real strong masters in the royal city, the life and death of the sea demons on the front line didn't matter at all. After all, there were simply as many sea demon cannon fodder as one wanted in the boundless ocean. However, human beings were different. The population base of human beings was far lower than that of marine creatures. They were not even on the same order of magnitude. In addition, due to the limitation of talent, human beings grew very slowly. Want to become a hidden fisher? They were all 1 in a million characters that were as rare as phoenix feathers and Qilin horns. Therefore, when he heard someone questioning him, Han Fei shouted, "I told you to do it, so do it. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Hurry up and end the battle." Han Fei's voice was indifferent and his eyes were cold, which directly shocked this person. In the man's mind, the scene of Han Fei's attack just now appeared. More than a dozen Dao-seeking state sea demons were killed by Han Fei in an instant. From the beginning to the end, the other party didn't even have a chance to escape. His attacks were so easy that it didn't look like the power that an explorer could exert at all. What was Han Fei's strength once upon a time? In less than 10 years, the little guy who was only a hidden fisher had grown to the point that he could kill big sea demons casually. The middle-aged man thought to himself, "Things have come to this. Han Fei has begun to kill regardless of the means. Even if he stopped now, some people had already seen it, so he might as well kill more sea demons." The middle-aged man yelled, "Kill them! Hurry up and attack!" Seeing this, Han Fei couldn't help but sneer. Years of tacit understanding had caused these people to be bound by the rules. Little did they know that if they hadn't taken action, more than half of the human hidden fishers would have been killed or wounded. Although Han Fei didn't know who arranged this battle, he didn't know. However, in his heart, Han Fei was a little cautious about the Sea Demon King City. The opponent's strategy wasn't small. No matter what, such a battle would be included in the opponent's strategy. The funny thing was that there were still some human experts who didn't notice it at all. Therefore, Han Fei had to take the Sea Demon Royal City's strategy seriously. The intelligence of Sea Demon powerhouses was no less than that of human powerhouses. At this moment, on the surface of the water, thousands of human hidden fishers felt that their blood was boiling. Unfortunately, after so many years, few people remembered what Han Fei looked like. After all, among these hidden fishers, only a few very senior hidden fishers knew Han Fei. Someone shouted, "It's Han Fei, the Han Fei who forged the Fei Yinmu furnace. He's back. Someone was shocked. So strong. What kind of means did he use? Punishing Saber and Little Gold couldn't be seen by ordinary people at all. Because it was too fast, people could only see the frequent appearance of void cracks and flashing golden light. The nine-tailed mantis shrimp and Little Fatty were the most powerful creatures they could see. The nine-tailed mantis shrimp's void chains stretched out one by one, piercing like spears. No matter how the other party defended, almost no one could resist the power of the nine-tailed mantis shrimp's stab. Not to mention Little Fatty, all the sea demons sucked dry in an instant. And all kinds of attacks fell on them, but they had no reaction at all. At this moment, Han Fei finally stopped hiding. In the past, he would hide some trump cards and even didn't want to reveal his contractual creatures. But now it didn't matter. After all, except for the venerables, no one could stop him anymore. If a venerable really came to attack, even if it was a dead end, he could still have peace, right? Han Fei even wanted to announce the news of his reappearance. It would be best if someone in the Thousand-Star City noticed and came to attack him. Back then, in those big families in the Thousand-Star City, even a peak-level explorer could kill him at will. Even if he tried his best, he was still no match for a casual blow. Now, a peak-level explorer wanted to try again? Who was the one who pressed who? All the explorers were attacking, and those sea spirit state sea demons didn't dare to stay at all. Unfortunately, because they couldn't tear the void. Even if some of them could escape through the void, how could they escape from the explorers? Therefore, in a moment, the sea demon army was one-sided, and the sea spirit state creatures died one after another. The remaining nearly 4,000 half-mermaids were being harvested. A half-mermaid roared, "Human beings, you're shameless. While our strong ones are not here, you dare to attack us with strong ones." As soon as the half-mermaid said that, Han Fei suddenly appeared. Facing these sea demons, Han Fei had no mercy at all. "Since you're bullying me with numbers, I'll bully you with strength." Only a moment later, when many explorers joined the battle, Han Fei heard a voice vibrating in the void. "Human, how dare you attack the weak? Do you want to break the rules?" Han Fei stood proudly with his hands behind his back. "Did you see me attack you? Just because you say the rules are the rules, who do you think you are? In the territory of the Scattered Stars Island, the rules are set by the Scattered Stars Island." Jing said, "A semi-venerable is coming. In the distance, 2 junior venerables are also on their way. Do you need me to take action? That person's strength should not be weak. He has already comprehended the great Tao." Han Fei curled his lips and smiled. "Then I have to hurry, but you'd better take a rest." Chilla. A crack was torn in the void, and a half-mermaid just pierced the space with a harpoon, leaving a dazzling and blazing blow in the sky like a meteor. At that moment, on the sea, countless people even forgot to fight. It was because that attack traversed half the sky, powerful beyond compare. Even the many human explorers who saw it were horrified. Someone said in horror, "Not good, it's a semi-venerable super powerhouse." Pumph. Boom! As soon as the man said so, Han Fei raised his foot and moved 10 kilometers in one step, and a golden fist mark bloomed like the sun. With the help of the Beast King technique, Han Fei's invincible fist mark smashed the meteor-like blow. A wisp of resplendent fireworks exploded in the sky. The demi-venerable sea demon thought he could defeat Han Fei with a single blow. After all, in his view, Han Fei was just an advanced explorer, 2 levels lower than him. How could Han Fei be a match for him? However, as soon as Han Fei made a move, he easily crushed his full-strength blow. Not only that, even he didn't know how Han Fei moved 10 kilometers in one step and moved horizontally in an instant. But not good, what a strong human. The semi-venerable big demon thought of something and a battle suit appeared on his body. Facing a strong master like Han Fei, he had to take him seriously. But at the moment he put on the battle suit, a loud roar resounded through the sky. Under thousands of eyes, hundreds of ferocious beasts that looked like they came from ancient times stepped in the air and roared. The semi-venerable powerhouse had never seen such a scene before. Not to mention the hundreds of beast phantoms, The terrifying mental impact alone had already surpassed the so-called semi-venerable level. After Han Fei roared, the semi-venerable powerhouse knew that Han Fei might have hidden his strength. Despite the splitting headache, the two big shields in his body flew out and exploded. How could Han Fei allow these weapons, which were at least high-quality divine weapons, to explode? Otherwise, many humans in the sea would be seriously injured. Sword drawing technique. The sword split the void, and the terrifying explosion rushed into the void crack. Crack, crack, crack. The sound of armor shattering made people's blood freeze. Han Fei shouted, "You're just a semi-venerable. How dare you mess around on the Scattered Stars Island? Go to hell." Everyone in the sky and on the sea was dumbfounded. Didn't they say that this person was Han Fei? Why was he able to crush a semi-venerable in the void? The explorers were also horrified. When they heard of Han Fei's historical achievements had already popped up in their minds. After all, the Thug Academy had made a lot of noise in the Thousand-Star City. Others might not know, but as explorers, how could they not know? Today, Han Fei killed a semi-venerable with a sword, which shocked them. In the void, half of the big demon's body was cut open. Han Fei held the embroidery needle in both hands and pierced it, destroying its internal organs. Its vitality and soul were being forcibly swallowed by Han Fei. After another dozen minutes, with a swish, the void was torn apart. Han Fei held the half-mermaid semi-venerable in his hand and shouted, "Sea demons are tyrannical and bully the weak with numbers. Today they want to attack the weak of the human race, but I killed them on the spot. You saw it with your own eyes, right?" They clearly sensed that the void was shaking, which meant that the venerable big demon was about to arrive. Han Fei said casually and punched out angrily with a golden light condensed in his fist. Then the blood of this semi-venerable spilled all over the battlefield. All of a sudden, all the half-mermaids and half-mermaids on the battlefield fled, stained with blood. With a strong enemy like Han Fei on their side, how could they not run? "Shueishenqi, do you know what you are doing?" Hum. When the void was torn apart, Han Fei finally saw his acquaintances. However, Shueishenqi had become a venerable at this moment, which was a bit beyond Han Fei's expectation. As for the other person, he held a harpoon and shot 3 times in a row, trying to kill the 9-tailed mantis shrimp, Little Fatty, and Little Gold. Because Shueishenqi was a little late, he didn't have time to take action, so he just reminded Han Fei, "Han Fei." Han Fei smiled, and with a thought, the 3 of them turned into streams of light and returned. And Han Fei's hand formed a fist seal and went straight to the sky. "You've only just entered the venerable realm, and you want to kill my contractual spiritual beast? Have I given you any face?" Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 1373. Seeing Han Fei's attack, the venerable couldn't help frowning. If I'm not mistaken, this human should only be an advanced explorer. Why does he dare to attack me? He slapped down casually and was about to turn around to deal with Shueishenqi. Obviously, although he was angry that Han Fei attacked a low-level sea demon, he didn't take Han Fei seriously at all. But in the next moment his face suddenly changed. His palm print was shattered by Han Fei in an instant, and he couldn't even block Han Fei's punch? What? Han Fei had already appeared not far from him, holding the embroidery needle in his hand and smashing down one after another with shocking rod shadows. Shueishenqi was also very surprised. Han Fei could easily block the attack of a venerable? However, Shueishenqi was used to big scenes, so he was only surprised for a moment. Originally, Han Fei was Han Guanshu's son, which was enough for him to look up to. Besides, Han Fei had inherited the sea-quelling painting and was known as the top heavenly talent most likely to become a king. At this moment, it seemed to be a matter of course that Han Fei could fight a venerable. If not, how could Han Fei become a king? However, the sea demon venerable was horrified. His first reaction was that Han Fei had hidden his strength. However, according to the power of Han Fei's bombardment, there seemed to be no Taoist aura in it. "No Taoist aura?" Shueishenqi shouted, "Han Fei, let's attack together and stop him." Gotcha. The sea demon venerable blocked it with one hand, thinking that no matter how strong Han Fei was, without Taoist aura, what could his attack power do? However, when Han Fei's rod fell on his arm, he finally knew what it meant to feel great. How is it possible? Han Fei smiled. After activating the Beast King art, his strength had reached nearly 2,000 waves, and he had long surpassed the so-called semi-venerable realm. It could be said that Han Fei's current strength could crush this venerable in front of him to the ground. Even Xue Shenqi couldn't help but take a breath. The short hammer in his hand stabbed violently, drilling a big hole in this person's battle suit. With a crack, this person's forearm was broken. Han Fei didn't show any mercy. The Monkey King's 3,000 strikes poured down like raindrops. After Xue Shenqi made his move, he flashed directly below the two of them and tore open the void. Don't fight here. However, Han Fei had already blasted out ripples, causing billowing waves in the void and some dents in the sea. On the human side, the 8 explorers were roaring angrily in midair, blocking the terrifying waves for the humans. However, the sea demons were not so lucky. Because they were all small fries without the support of great monsters, even if they dove into the sea at the first moment, at least a few hundred of them were crushed to pieces by the aftershocks of the battle between venerable realm experts. And this was because Xue Shenqi had blocked it. The sea monster was fleeing, and the punishing saber and the others were chasing it. Because the tree spirit was relatively slow, it mostly collected the scattered sea-swallowing seashells apart from entangling the enemies. Although these sea-swallowing seashells were no longer useful to Han Fei. After all, Han Fei had long surpassed the level of a hidden fisher. However, for the millions of ordinary people on the Scattered Stars Island, they were all treasures, resources, and property. In mid-air, the sea demon Venerable took 100 strikes from Han Fei in a few seconds, and there were constant cracking sounds coming from his body. He didn't expect that Han Fei's power was so terrifying. This wasn't the power that a Tao-seeking state cultivator should have at all. The 1,000 waves was the peak. The semi-venerable realm was not just about the increase of power, but also about the understanding and application of the Great Way. Everyone's Great Way would eventually be transformed into power, added to their bodies, and made them stronger. However, the power of Han Fei's 100 consecutive overlapping waves could be said to be extremely terrifying. If the semi-venerable realm expert hadn't found a chance to escape, he would have been smashed to death by Han Fei. At this moment, Han Fei also felt an obscure power. Like a stacked wave, it actually pushed this person's body to gush out a force that stuck to his embroidery needle. However, even so, Han Fei's power still fell on the venerable realm expert through the tide-like power of Tao. As the infinity water stirred, Han Fei forcibly pulled the venerable into the void. Xue Shenqi shouted, "Everyone, return to the Scattered Stars Island immediately." Xue Shenqi also hurriedly entered the void. However, at the moment he rushed into the void, what greeted him was a terrifying impact of a huge wave. Some water sprayed directly on his face, forcing him to take 2 or 3 steps back. Han Fei detonated the infinity water, and the terrifying blow blew up the sea demon Venerable, making him bleed all over. In this terrifying explosion wave, Han Fei withdrew his hand and held his sword. Silver light flashed like lightning, and dazzling light soared into the sea. Walala, thud! Xue Shenqi saw a pair of legs flying towards him. Seeing this scene, he couldn't help but be horrified. What the hell is Han Fei's combat efficiency? Isn't it a bit too fast? On Han Fei's side, a large mass of black fog had already enveloped the Venerable and Han Fei. Oh! The 100 Beasts' soul-suppressing roar was activated. Bam, bam, bam. The sound of explosions kept ringing. Suddenly, Han Fei was sent flying backward. A big golden carp forcibly rushed out of the black fog. It was the Venerable who had summoned his associated spirit. At that moment, the black fog collapsed. The old turtle couldn't withstand the impact of a Venerable alone. However, Han Fei, who was blasted back, twisted in midair and reappeared in the black fog that was about to collapse. This time, Han Fei didn't intend to hide his strength. Since he had encountered this battle and had the opportunity to fight with a Venerable, why wouldn't he take action? Different from the Shuemu Heaven, There were many strong masters in the Shuemu heaven, and there were nearly 100 venerables in each of the 3 royal cities. The Shuemu heaven didn't have many venerables, but how many were there in the Baibei royal city and the Blood Sea Divine Wood city? However, in the Inyang heaven, every venerable was an extremely powerful figure. Therefore, it was very incredible for Han Fei to encounter a strange sea demon venerable as soon as he came back. If this venerable had appeared earlier, wouldn't Xue Shenqi have had to call for help from the Thousand-Star City? Seeing this scene, Xue Shenqi wasn't in a hurry. After going to that world, Han Fei's strength had increased by more than a little. In just 3 years, he had directly challenged a venerable? What kind of opportunity did Han Fei encounter over there to make him grow so strong? Xue Shenqi stood proudly in the void, his voice sounding dignified. Do you need help? Han Fei grinned. No, I've always wanted to kill one. I didn't expect that I would have this opportunity as soon as I came back today. Seeing the opponent's Dao aura, the surrounding waves were obscure and it was difficult to cut through. Han Fei activated the Dao seed and shouted in his heart, "Seal the laws here." After more than 2 years, Han Fei had a little understanding of his own Dao seed. He could use some laws of Dao in a small range that wouldn't have too many changes. For example, if he restricted the spatial laws here, the opponent's Dao aura would be weakened by more than half. Bam. Of course, if he restricted the laws of Dao, Han Fei couldn't use any of them. He couldn't use any of them, including the draw technique and the sacrificing punch seal. However, this was the effect that Han Fei wanted. Without many techniques, he could only rely on his physical power. This was a special use that he had figured out, but it couldn't last long. In the words of the old turtle, this was interfering with the laws of Dao. And the laws of Dao had the power to repair themselves. Therefore, with Han Fei's current understanding of the laws, he couldn't make this situation last long. However, this moment was enough for Han Fei to have a good fight. When the sea demon saw that his Dao was blocked, he was horrified and wanted to escape. However, Han Fei was too fast. How could he let him succeed? Bam! Han Fei's punch hit the head of the sea demon venerable, as if hitting a sandbag. The sea demon venerable was knocked back dozens of meters and his face was crooked. Xue Shenqi's eyelids twitched slightly. With a punch, the face of a venerable was deformed? Just how much power did he use? Although the sea demon venerable was hit by Han Fei, he immediately found that his physical power could still be used. He immediately fought back and punched at Han Fei. Idiot! In Han Fei's heart, the old turtle muttered, an ordinary venerable is fighting with a body cultivator? Did his brain get caught in a crack in the void? Even Han Fei laughed, watching the punch fall on his mouth, but he didn't care. Because at this moment, his fist the size of a casserole had already blasted out. Thud, thud, thud. In an instant, hundreds and thousands of fists hit the head of the sea demon venerable like raindrops. In the blink of an eye, the head of a giant lipped black fish was blasted out by Han Fei. Obviously, the sea demon venerable had been beaten silly. Each of Han Fei's punches had a terrifying force of nearly 2,000 waves. No one could withstand it. On the fish's head, the scales were shattered, and there were dents everywhere that had been blasted. Oh! The soul-suppressing roar of beasts. The void lines. The black mist of the old turtle descended. The body of the sea demon venerable was aging at a speed visible to the naked eye. The disappearance of vitality couldn't be hidden from Xue Shenqi's eyes. Xue Shenqi shouted in a low voice, Han Fei, have you cultivated evil arts? Han Fei looked back. Evil arts? Of course not. What I'm walking on is the right path of a king. What you see is just the power of time. Regardless of whether Xue Shenqi believed him or not, Han Fei continued to swallow. It just so happened that this was a real venerable. After devouring this fellow, his soul strength would surpass 40,000 points. In his heart, the old turtle said, 70 to 80% of his vitality was swallowed by me, and some was taken away by you. Do you want to be reborn from a single drop of blood? That's impossible. Han Fei smiled and 2 sledgehammers appeared in his hands. With a clang, the head of the sea demon venerable was smashed into pieces. Rumble! At this moment, The scorching sun was obscured by black clouds. Above the sea, the wind was surging, the black clouds gathered, and a red crack spanned thousands of kilometers. The heavy rain suddenly fell and instantly turned into blood raindrops. The heavens' cry fell. At that moment, the scattered stars island, the Pearl Divers port, the ancient battlefield, the 10,000 Demon Valley, experts suddenly stood up one after another and raised their heads to look at the sky. There were actually supreme experts that fell today? And at this moment, Han Fei felt very comfortable. He had been thinking about it for a long time. Today, he finally slaughtered one. After slaughtering the venerable, Han Fei grinned and tilted his head to look at Shueishenqi. How is it? Second update. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 1374. After killing a venerable head-on, Han Fei didn't feel anything special. In his heart, Han Fei felt as if he had defeated a peerless heavenly talent. There didn't seem to be any difference. Perhaps because his strength had already reached this level, when he faced a venerable again, he didn't have that kind of fascination as before. After all, the Exalt realm was just a realm of cultivation. In the past, it was a yearning. Although he hadn't become a venerable yet, Han Fei didn't panic at all. In the 3 years in the water with heaven, especially in the first year, Han Fei's strength had grown too fast. In the following time, Han Fei was just consolidating and polishing his foundation. Holding the sun-moon shell of the venerable, Han Fei glanced at it casually and found that there were pitifully few things like spiritual fruits and spiritual springs in it. However, it made sense. They were venerables. They didn't care about things like spiritual springs and spiritual fruits for a long time. However, in the sun-moon shell of the venerable, there were some top-level materials and a different sea map. Han Fei glanced at it calmly and didn't take it out. After all, Shueishenqi was still here. With this glance, Han Fei had already come to the conclusion that behind the 10,000 Demon Valley, there was a royal city. However, the location of this royal city was extremely mysterious. It must have broken through the wall of death. On this sea map, Han Fei saw a line barrier that looked like a city wall. On the map, there were even some maps about the inside of the barrier. However, Han Fei was a little puzzled. The wall of death was such a powerful barrier that even the battle between the two kings failed to break. How could the royal city of the Yin-Yang heaven break through the wall of death? Not paying too much attention to this sea map, Han Fei faced Shueishenqi. Shueishenqi and the others should have explored the scattered stars island countless times. If he knew the existence of the wall of death clearly, Shueishenqi and the others definitely knew it. Besides, there were suddenly so many strong masters on the 10,000 Demon Valley side. Han Fei didn't believe that the royal city was behind them. Shueishenqi and the others should also be able to guess it. He just didn't know how much Shueishenqi knew about this so-called royal city. Seeing Han Fei again in this situation, Shueishenqi also sighed a little. The two looked at each other for a moment, and then Shueishenqi slowly said, "You were right. The 10,000 Demon Valley is indeed moving. If there were no accidents, they should have opened up a passage to King City. The venerables and Dao-seeking realm great demons that you killed today should have come from the so-called Sea Demon Royal City. Do you know where it is?" Shueishenqi, I don't know. If I had known earlier, I would have had a countermeasure. After a pause, Shueishenqi asked, "Did you come back alone?" Han Fei thought for a moment. Although Jing came back with him, his junior sister had told him not to let Jing fight easily. Therefore, it was better not to tell Shueishenqi. So, Han Fei nodded. "But at least I've become much stronger, haven't I?" However, Shueishenqi shook his head slightly. "I'm afraid it's not enough." Han Fei couldn't help but frown. Not enough? Han Fei thought to himself, is Shueishenqi crazy? I've just killed more than a dozen Dao-seeking realm demons, including a semi-venerable and a beginner venerable half-mermaid. Isn't that enough? Han Fei immediately looked in the direction of the scattered stars island. What's the problem? Shueishenqi nodded. You should know the power of the scattered stars island itself. Your father is not here, so there is no venerable on the scattered stars island. In order to resist the suppression of the Thousand-Star City, I had to make a breakthrough. But even if I make a breakthrough, I'm just a beginner venerable and can suppress venerables of the same realm. That said, if a middle venerable one or stronger powerhouse comes, my right to speak will be cut. Han Fei couldn't help but narrow his eyes. Someone is coming to seize power? Xue Shenqi nodded. However, the result is not so bad. Some people from the big clans have come, and so have the 7 major sections. Only with these 2 restrictions can I continue to control the Scattered Stars Island. Han Fei thought to himself, the complicated situation in the Thousand-Star City has finally spread to the Scattered Stars Island. Han Fei frowned. Many have come? Xue Shenqi said, 4 mid-level venerables and 4 beginner venerables have come. Including me, there are currently 9 venerables. Although you are an advanced explorer, your combat power. I didn't expect that there would be so many venerables on the Scattered Stars Island one day. Han Fei curled his lips. You could have destroyed the 10,000 Demon Valley before, right? However, without the 10,000 Demon Valley, where could you find so many sea demons to train the human disciples? A smile appeared on Xue Shenqi's face. You seem to have grown a lot. Indeed, it's not difficult to destroy the 10,000 Demon Valley, and our human race is not that weak. But now, it doesn't matter whether the 10,000 Demon Valley exists or not. In the end, it's the Empyrean waterfall that can't hold on any longer. You came back a little early, but in at least 3 months, at most half a year, the so-called Sea Demon King City will definitely appear. At that time, a war is inevitable. Han Fei said, no matter what, the 10,000 Demon Valley must be destroyed. There are too many sea demons in the 10,000 Demon Valley. Their number is even far greater than the so-called King City. Destroying them can at least ensure the safety of the ordinary people on the Scattered Stars Island. Xue Shenqi asked, have you seen the King City over there? Han Fei thought to himself, I've more than seen it. I've been there, become a heavenly talent, and entered their Forbidden Land-level secret realm. Of course, Han Fei naturally wouldn't say these words to Xue Shenqi, so he said, I roughly know. The King City is not as big as I imagined. There are 2 major king cities over there, one of which has about 100,000 people. Only 100,000 people? Xue Shenqi couldn't help frowning. This doesn't seem right? What can a mere 100,000 people do? However, Han Fei then said, don't underestimate these 100,000 people. The minimum standard to enter the King City is a level 6 demonic heritage, which is equivalent to a level 6 spiritual heritage of our human race. But even Xue Shenqi was shocked to hear this. What kind of standard is this? A level 5 spiritual heritage is qualified to enter the 7 major academies. If what Han Fei said was true, wouldn't the strength of this Sea Demon King City be heaven-defying? Back then, Tanggu only had a level 7 spiritual heritage and was regarded as a treasure by the Thousand-Star City. And this Sea Demon King City required a level 6 demonic heritage to enter? What kind of concept was this? And there were 100,000 people. Of course, Han Fei was talking about the White Shell King City. As for the other Sea Demon King cities, they were probably not the same. However, it could also be seen from this that the heritage of the Sea Demon King City was absolutely not to be underestimated. Han Fei continued, the lowest level that can be in the King City is the Sea Spirit state. This means that there are 100,000 sea spirits in the King City. Xue Shenqi's face suddenly changed and he stared at Han Fei. What did you say? Han Fei said, you didn't hear wrong. In the King City, the lowest strength is the Sea Spirit state. Those below this realm are not even qualified to enter. There may be something wrong with our King City. Otherwise, the Scattered Stars Island would have been flattened long ago. So, since they are still fighting tentatively, it means that the other party's difficulties have not been resolved yet. Xue Shenqi suddenly raised his head, looked in the direction of the Scattered Stars Island, and interrupted, this matter is of great importance. Let's talk about it later. The Scattered Stars Island has been fighting for 7 days in a row, and everyone is already tired. Since this battle is over and you have broken the rules, go back quickly. Scattered Stars Island. They didn't know that on the battlefield ahead, Han Fei had returned and started a massacre. After all, the battle ahead was not something ordinary people could get involved in at all. On the west side, on the coastline from the Skeleton Shore to the Path of Giants, the battle was the fiercest. In the tide, densely packed giant feathered horseshoe crabs and giant insect kings rushed forward as if they were free. It was fine on the Path of Giants, where there was a complete set of smooth defense lines. Even if the red tide rushed forward, within the range of the Path of Giants, there were countless people resisting it. These ordinary sea creatures were not allowed to take a step forward. However, on the Skeleton Shore, places below the beach were not so easy. On the Skeleton Shore, the battlefield here had expanded to more than 5,000 people. On the coastline, more than 3,000 people were resting. The spirit gatherers were undoubtedly the most difficult of this group of people. Their spiritual energy had almost been exhausted. Above the coast, a fiery red figure, holding 2 swords, was killing on the battlefield. From a distance, it looked like a beautiful red line, killing from south to north, from east to west. "Captain, don't we have other reinforcements? We've been fighting for 3 days and 3 nights, and the last batch only rested for half an hour. This is not enough at all." "Captain Yu, I'm Ling Yu from the command center. You can't consume any more spiritual energy. 6 hours ago, the enemy law enforcers retreated, and it's very likely that they will come back." Swish, swish. The fiery red figure threw out 2 swords and killed more than 30 enemies. Then she stepped into the void, panting. "Others can rest, but I can't. My momentum is unbreakable. Spirit gatherers, replenish my spiritual energy." 2 hidden fisher-level spirit gatherers quickly crossed the battlefield and went straight ahead. Yu Lingyun sighed slightly. Scattered Stars Island year after year, day after day. Are they training talents, or are they really fighting against sea demons? Where are the experts? Where are they? Yu Lingyun stretched out her hand, and the 2 red long swords flew back. She held the long sword in her hand, her long hair fluttering in the wind, and looked into the distance. "Daliang Leng Hui, you should learn from Xiao Xiao." "Fine, I'm afraid I have to follow your example. Let's wait a little longer. Let me defend this Skeleton Shore." Suddenly, the 6th life spear flew out of the ground. The 2 spirit gatherers who were replenishing spiritual energy for Yu Lingyun were pierced in an instant. "Asshole!" Yu Lingyun's face changed, and she slashed at the ground with her sword. "You're finally tired." At the moment when Yu Lingyun attacked the ground, a king insect not far away suddenly exploded. A harpoon pierced the sky, and white light blossomed. The Sea King's strike was launched. Yu Lingyun wanted to wave her sword again, but half of the sword wave had just been condensed, and her spiritual energy was exhausted. The recoil made her vomit a mouthful of blood. Looking at the white harpoon, Yu Lingyun's eyes dimmed slightly. Sure enough, she couldn't avoid her death. "Xiao Xiao, you're the only one left. Live well." "Pucci." Yu Lingyun couldn't be more familiar with the sound of a sharp blade tearing flesh. She couldn't help but close her eyes, but 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. 3 seconds had passed, but she didn't feel any pain at all. Yu Lingyun couldn't help but slowly open her eyes, only to see a rather familiar figure standing on the sea and looking at her with a smile. What's wrong? Will the Yu Lingyun I know also give up on herself? Yu Lingyun looked at the half-mermaid that was torn in half, and her eyes couldn't help but warm up. Captain? I'm finally back. I won't leave until the yin-yang sky comes to an end. End of this chapter. Chapter 1375. Yu Lingyun couldn't believe her eyes. She had long heard that Han Fei had gone to the Thousand-Star City. However, it didn't take long for gossip to spread that the Thug Academy had rebelled and attacked the Thousand-Star City. Yu Lingyun and the others sighed for a while and secretly prayed that Han Fei would be fine. At that time, Leng Hui said that he would inquire about it. However, not long after, Leng Hui was killed in the outer sea, and his body couldn't even be brought back. At this moment, Han Fei appeared quietly at this moment, like a god descending from heaven. Seeing Yu Lingyun's surprised expression, Han Fei smiled faintly. "What's wrong? I haven't seen you for a few years. Don't you know me? Be careful." Yu Lingyun was about to speak, but her face changed, and she quickly shouted. Swish, swish, swish. Life spears broke through the air, and 5 red demons attacked Han Fei. They couldn't confirm Han Fei's strength, but Han Fei could kill a sea spirit, so they had to go all out. The corners of Han Fei's mouth curled up. Without even looking back, he casually waved his hand, and there was a series of explosions. The 5 life spears, together with the 5 red demons hiding underground, were instantly blown up. This scene was witnessed by almost half of the skeleton shore. Han Fei said indifferently, "How troublesome." Han Fei looked back, and within a kilometer around him, the seawater flowed backward and floated in the sky. In the blink of an eye, it turned into water blades as thin as cicada wings. Swish, 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 swish. Thousands of knives spiraled like dragons, and a huge number of water blades wandered on the surface of the sea, even plunging into the beach and the seabed. Bam, bam, bam. How could these ordinary giant feathered horseshoe crabs and king beetles resist the infinity water? It was basically a one-sided fight. With Han Fei's current soul power, it might be a bit difficult for him to control thousands of knives. After all, it was quite brain-consuming to walk thousands of paths with the knives. However, the infinity water had almost become a part of his body. Therefore, there was no such problem at this moment. Wherever each knife blade passed, knife energy would remain. Thousands of knives flowed like a stream, sweeping away the clouds, and corpses were everywhere. Shoot, ooh, who's this? Like a swarm of locusts, the sabers cleared the giant feathered horseshoe crabs and king beetles within dozens of kilometers in the blink of an eye. After 10 breaths, there was not a single marine creature left on the skeleton shore. Under the shocked gazes of tens of thousands of people and Yu Lingyun, Han Fei stepped in midair with Snowmorn in his hand, covering 1,000 meters with each step and leaving a sword mark after every step. 10 steps and 10 swords. Finally, Han Fei stomped his foot and a large spirit-gathering array appeared. Behind him, the seawater flowed backward and rolled into the sky. The huge waves rose more than 200 meters into the sky. Azure Sea as sword. Against an expert of the same level, it was basically impossible to kill a great demon at the peak of the Tao-seeking realm with this kind of power. However, this was the skeleton shore, which was close to the Scattered Stars Island. The sea creatures that could reach here couldn't be too strong. Han Fei slashed with Snowmorn non-stop, and the spirit-gathering array under his feet rose crazily. The terrifying tide of swords spread for dozens of kilometers. Crash! The huge tide was pushing against the sea in the opposite direction. After only an instant, everybody on the skeleton shore discovered, to their shock, that the seawater had been completely enshrouded by insect corpses and crab shells. That terrifying sword wave pushed to a place where no one could see it with the naked eye. Only then did it collapse with a loud bang due to the lack of spiritual energy. During this period of time, practically everything that the wave passed through perished. With this strike alone, Han Fei had killed countless creatures. Han Fei could even crazily absorb the spiritual energy contained in those creatures through the demon purification pot. However, for him now, he could absorb spiritual energy from the void at any time, so he didn't covet the spiritual energy. After all, spiritual energy was spiritual energy everywhere, and he didn't have to get it from the sea creatures. Besides, the people of the Scattered Stars Island had been fighting for 7 days and nights and needed a lot of spiritual energy. Han Fei didn't want to rob them. After all, those people couldn't absorb spiritual energy from the void and could only rely on eating the sea creatures. After Han Fei took a few steps, he returned to the skeleton shore. The people on the shore, including the guards and scouts who had just been replaced, all stood up. The crowd stared with their eyes wide open, their hearts filled with astonishment. Tens of thousands of people fought on such a difficult battlefield. That young man, 1 man and 1 sword, had wiped out all of them? Was he still a human? Gulp! Someone exclaimed, Oh my God. Is this General Shueishenqi? Someone said in shock. I don't know who he is. But he's my life goal. He's my life goal. Some people on the battlefield even sat down, blinked their eyes, and murmured, Strong, is this the Strong? It's him, it's Han Fei, it's Captain Han Fei. He used to be the captain of my scouts team. What? Old who? Take it easy. Don't talk nonsense. A newcomer exclaimed and quickly stopped the guy who shouted. Someone was dumbfounded. Old who, are you kidding me? Are you talking about Captain Han Fei who created the Feiyanmu furnace? Someone hurriedly said, Is it the Han Fei who attacked the Dark Hunter Legion twice? The middle-aged man called Old who said, It can't be wrong. At that time, I just came to the 38th Battalion. At that time, Captain Han Fei was already a captain. But I don't understand his strength anymore. Han Fei came to Yu Lingyun, pointed at her, and a stream of spiritual energy quickly poured into her body. Then Han Fei waved his hand again, and a chain of white light suddenly descended and frantically began to circulate among the injured people. Everyone who was transmitted by the white light, no matter how big or small, recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was also the first time that Han Fei had used the holy light chain. He had never had a chance to use it before. But now it really came in handy. Who knew that the effect would be so good? The holy light chain could transmit nearly 100 people at once. Of course, it also consumed a lot of energy. However, Han Fei could afford it now. Han Fei roared, All the seriously injured, gather here in 10 seconds. Under the gaze of Yu Lingyun, the commanders of the Hidden Fishers, and the members of the Tactical Command Center, the crowd quickly gathered. Swish, swish, swish. Holy light chains fell one after another. As if the beach had been cracked in half, in an instant, the injuries of thousands of people were recovering in an orderly manner. For those who had the most serious injuries, such as broken hands and feet, there was nothing Han Fei could do. It was said that such injuries could be treated when one reached the venerable realm. In the discussion, Han Fei frowned slightly and looked at Yu Lingyun. Why are you still here? Yu Lingyun took a breath and looked at the powerful healing techniques one after another, thinking, this is Han Fei, a top heavenly talent and a legend of the Scattered Stars Island. Isn't it only natural that he can become so strong? Yu Lingyun sighed slightly. Leng Hui, Gu Daliang, and I all have the same purpose, which is to become stronger. Why do you want us to go back to the town? Han Fei glanced at her. Where are Leng Hui and Gu Daliang? Yu Lingyun smiled bitterly. Leng Hui died in the outer sea, and Gu Daliang died in a sea demon riot a year ago. I thought it was my turn today. I didn't expect that you would come. Han Fei had mixed feelings. However, Han Fei just nodded and took out a sea-swallowing seashell, handing it over. You've grown fast and you've been fighting all the time. However, fighting all the time is not a way out. Cultivation requires thinking, enlightenment, and understanding. Take a few years off. Yu Lingyun accepted the sea-swallowing seashell in a daze, only to find that there were abundant spiritual springs, spiritual fruits, energy fruits, battle techniques, and techniques in it. She even saw 2 long swords that were emitting fire. Captain. Yu Lingyun quickly came back to herself, but when she raised her head, she saw that Han Fei had already walked 1,000 meters away. Han Fei's voice fell next to her ears. I don't want all the people I lead to die. Okay, that's enough for you. Go back to your town and study for a few years. Next, it's my battle. Ever since Han Fei left, every time they met, it was only a short moment. Yu Lingyun remembered that when Han Fei returned from the sea, the first thing he did was to appear on the skeleton shore and have a hot pot with them. Yu Lingyun knew that it was probably from that moment on that Han Fei was completely different and showed his extraordinary talent. Swish, swish, swish. Immediately, dozens of people flew to Yu Lingyun and asked telepathically, Captain, is this Captain Han? Sister Lingyun, how strong is he exactly? Didn't they say that Han Fei only rose in a dozen years? He shouldn't be more than 30 years old at this moment. How did he become so strong? Someone asked, Sister Lingyun, Captain Han is your old captain. What good things did he give you? Yu Lingyun looked at Han Fei's back and then at the sea far away that was full of broken bodies. She immediately shouted, "Everyone, clean up the battlefield in half an hour. Quickly reorganize the army and be ready to support the other defense lines." Han Fei, who had disappeared from everyone's sight, slightly smiled. Yu Lingyun is still the same Yu Lingyun. No matter what happens, she always puts the immediate matters first. Suddenly, a voice sounded in Han Fei's ears. I was wondering who it was. He cleaned up the battlefield in a few seconds by himself with a sword. It turns out to be the traitor of the Thug Academy. Han Fei scanned with his perception. He didn't know him. The man was in the city lord's mansion at this moment. Han Fei frowned slightly. Can you repeat what you just said? Anyway, I just slaughtered one. I don't mind slaughtering another one. In the city lord's mansion, the man's face turned cold. Han Fei, you fled back then? Why you back now? Han Fei curled his lips. Which family are you from? If you don't know how to talk, shut up. I'll say it again. If you say it again, I'll beat you into an iron-head fish. Chapter 1376. Han Fei was as strong as ever. When he first entered the Thousand-Star City, Han Fei forcibly took back the Thug Academy and slapped the major families in the face. This was not the Thousand-Star City, but that person dared to mock him. How could Han Fei not be angry? If it weren't for the fact that they were facing a formidable enemy, Han Fei would have slaughtered him the moment he spoke, or before he even opened his mouth. After all, the Thug Academy hated these big families. Therefore, Han Fei was still restraining himself for the sake of the sea demons. Since the battle had just ended and countless ordinary cultivators were still recovering, he didn't want to implicate them. Otherwise, how could Han Fei allow this person to speak so arrogantly? Back then, Han Fei said that he was looking for opportunities and left the Thousand-Star City. In reality, it was indeed because his foundation was not strong enough that he managed to escape. Now, Han Fei believed that he had made some progress in his strength. Although he was not strong enough to fight those middle-level and peak-level venerables head-on, few people on the Scattered Stars Island could threaten him. If those people from the Thousand-Star City disobeyed the rules and wanted to attack him, Han Fei wouldn't ignore them. This time, this person was so rude to Han Fei. Han Fei naturally wouldn't back down. He tore open the void and soon arrived at the City Lord Mansion. When Han Fei walked out of the void, many people scanned him with their senses, and a venerable snorted. City Lord Residence. At this moment, there were 6 supremacies overseeing this place. Xue Shinchi had just returned. As for the person who spoke with the intention of mocking, he was tall and sturdy, and it looked like his muscles were knotted. In the Thousand-Star City, only the members of the Yang family had this style, so their identities were confirmed. In addition to this venerable, there were 2 other venerables wearing unique clothes. They were undoubtedly from the Jade Fairy Palace and the Grand Void Academy. Han Fei didn't know the other 2. However, one of them gave Han Fei a sense of danger. He shouldn't be a beginner venerable. The old turtle thought, there are only 2 middle-grade venerable ones here. One of them wants to kill you, but there's nothing to fear about the others. The moment Han Fei entered the City Lord's mansion, his eyes were already fixed on the young man who was full of killing intent towards him. It could be said that the people here were basically all youths. There wasn't even a middle-aged person. Perhaps because he was an Exalt Realm expert, he was able to change his appearance at will, and he revealed his appearance when he was young. Han Fei sneered. You want to kill me so much? Are you from the Truman Show? Of course, the young man wouldn't answer. His gaze was cold as he said, I didn't expect that you would be able to escape for 6 to 7 years. You've grown quite fast. You've actually passed your tribulation. Han Fei chuckled. What's wrong? Are you scared of my tribulation? The Yang family's venerable sneered. Kid, I don't know how you survived the tribulation, but I'm not afraid of you. However, passing the tribulation and entering the venerable realm are 2 different concepts. Aren't you a little too arrogant now? Whooshed, Han Fei drew his knife and pointed it at the venerable of the Yang family. It's none of your business whether I'm arrogant or not. If you don't like it, let's fight to determine who's superior and who's inferior. Let me see what kind of strength that old monster from the Yang family has cultivated for 1,000 years. Bang! The Yang family's venerable pressed down with one hand, and a green jade table was directly crushed into pieces. However, Han Fei just smiled. You don't dare to hit me, so you vent your anger on a table? He had lived for thousands of years, but this was all he had? The Yang family is really weak. How dare you? A big axe appeared in the Yang family's venerable's hand. He glared at Han Fei and almost slashed him. However, a thin man next to him glanced at him and snorted. If it weren't for the fact that this is the critical moment of the battle between human beings and sea demons, and the death of a venerable would cause a great change, I would have slashed you with my axe. Han Fei said disdainfully, I've been cultivating for a long time. Do you think I'm scared? You're just a junior venerable. How dare you talk nonsense? Do you think you can kill me? Who do you think you are? The Yang family's venerable was about to fly into a rage, but he heard the thin man say, Young man, don't be too rude. You're indeed quite talented, and you're quite capable of killing a venerable one. However, we all know very well that the venerable has been fighting with General Shui for several days, and his strength is no longer at its peak. Even if you kill him, I'm afraid it doesn't mean anything. The Chu Men venerable said lightly, Han Fei, it's said that you have the demeanor of a king and even have an inheritance. How about you guard the Scattered Stars Island? I think with your means, I'm afraid you have the ability to deal with them, right? Before Han Fei spoke, Shui Shenqi said to him via voice transmission, Don't be provoked. The beautiful woman of the Jade Fairy Palace also said via voice transmission, The situation on this island is complicated, and the situation on the sea demon side is also unpredictable. At this moment, we can't lack a strong master. The Chu Men venerable smiled and seemed to want to see how Han Fei would respond. If Han Fei agreed, he might really leave. Let's see how Han Fei will deal with this mess then. However, Han Fei looked at the Chu Men venerable with a smile. You want to leave? That's not impossible. The Chu Men sect has always been as timid as shrimp and don't dare to go out of the Thousand-Star City. However, if you leave now, you don't have to come here anymore. All the supplies of the Scattered Stars Island to the Chu Men sect will be cut off. If the Chu Men sect finds that the Scattered Stars Island is still profitable and wants to get their hands on it, I'm sorry, but I'll kill anyone who dares to come. The Chu Men venerable's face turned cold. Young man, how dare you? The Yang family venerable said, What? Shui Shenqi, since when has the Scattered Stars Island been ruled by a kid? Rip. The void was instantly torn apart. The Yang family venerable didn't expect that Han Fei would attack in this situation. He was accidentally slapped into the void by Han Fei. At that moment, many other venerables stepped into the void one after another. Holding Snowmorn, Han Fei slashed it down, and the frost and snow fell. In the void, a frost mark was left, and the extremely cold power and domineering sharpness slashed at the Yang family venerable. Clang. The Yang family venerable blocked it with his axe, but he miscalculated Han Fei's strength and was sent flying 1,000 meters away. The flesh and blood on his hand exploded, and essence blood spurted out. Han Fei covered 1,000 meters in one step, and Snowmorn had been replaced by the embroidery needle. Immediately, the Monkey King smashed down crazily, and spiritual energy surged in the void like real waves, one after another. Clang, clang, clang. War God's Devil Axe. Han Fei sneered. There's a forbidden spell here. The Yang family venerable suddenly stopped breathing as if he were scared, and his face changed dramatically. On the other side, the faces of Shui Shenqi and the others changed drastically. The Chu Men venerable gritted his teeth. It's a space sealing technique. The beautiful woman of the Jade Fairy Palace couldn't help but sigh. This technique is extraordinary. In the entire Thousand-Star City, there are less than 5 people who can match it. The Venerable of the Grand Void Academy also nodded slightly. It's not just the Tao, but the time he spent comprehending the Tao. It's too fast. How many years has it been? As an advanced explorer, he can shake a beginner venerable. I've never heard of such a thing. At this moment, Han Fei punched out like a dragon, bombarding crazily with only his physical strength. Boom, boom, boom. The biggest feature of body tempering was that their heads were hard and their bodies were hard. The Yang clan's venerable was knocked to the ground. Han Fei's attack was really a combination of left uppercuts, right uppercuts, and a series of punches. There were no tricks at all. This was a pure outbreak of power. In a moment, the Yang family venerable was hammered into a bloody mess. His whole head was swollen, and many of his bones were broken. Han Fei suddenly felt that time was almost up. If he continued, the restraint of his Tao would disappear. At that time, wouldn't he be exposed? Bam! Han Fei kicked the venerable of the Yang family to the venerable of the Chu sect, and then glanced at him coldly. I said I would beat you into an iron-head fish, so I will. I always keep my word. Remember to talk nicely next time. Who do you think you are? How dare you speak so coldly in front of me? If you do it again, even if the sea demons know, I will kill you on the spot. The two venerables of the Jade Fairy Palace and the Grand Void Academy looked at each other and were speechless. What kind of monster is this? This was the first time he had seen someone use pure strength to beat a venerable half to the point where his body was almost crippled. The body of the Yang family venerable was recovering with cracking sounds. However, there was a trace of horror in his eyes. He thought to himself, Han Fei is using his fists now. What if he uses weapons? Without the restraint of laws, a venerable could recover very quickly. No matter how hard Han Fei hit him, he would only break his opponent's bones. He would only need to consume a lot of energy to recover. Looking at the crazy look of the Yang family venerable, Han Fei said indifferently, As I said, you can go now. Then from today on, you have nothing to do with the Scattered Stars Island. The Scattered Stars Island will stop the supply of resources. But similarly, if you dare to set foot on the Scattered Stars Island again, I will kill you without mercy. Han Fei couldn't help but look at Shueishenqi, thinking, since you want to support me, you should have expected this day when I went to the Shuemu heaven, when you made the deal with my father, and when you bet that I would become a king. Seeing Han Fei's strength, Shueishenqi couldn't help but sigh in his heart. He nodded slightly and said, Everyone, the moment Han Fei left the Scattered Stars Island, he was already a 9-star inspector. At that time, he was also one of the strongest existences on the Scattered Stars Island. Now, Han Fei has returned and killed a venerable as a general. In the battle, he killed more than a dozen Tao-seeking warriors and more than 1,000 sea spirits and sea demons. This achievement has already reached the commander level. The commander level was a 12-star rank. So far, there was only Shueishenqi on the Scattered Stars Island. But now, Shueishenqi had already chosen a side. Han Fei's strength was already comparable to that of a venerable. Shueishenqi naturally chose a side. As for those big families, they were also divided into different sects on the Scattered Stars Island. Even if he offended a few families, it wouldn't be a big deal. The Chu sect venerable snorted coldly. Good, good, good. Shueishenqi, have you completely abandoned the 1,000-star city? Shueishenqi looked serious. Why do you say that, Venerable Chu? The Scattered Stars Island has always been fair in rewards and punishments. Han Fei's achievement in building the Fian Furnace is enough to make him a refiner and a general. This time, he killed a lot of enemies in one battle. Even if he has a 13-star rank, it's not impossible for him to be a guardian god. After all, I haven't hunted a venerable realm powerhouse so far. The Chu sect venerable narrowed his eyes. In that case, it's up to General Xue. The big families are here to help. There are many lines of defense on the Scattered Stars Island, and we are not weak. We can defend one side. Goodbye. Chapter 1377. In fact, if it were anywhere else, Han Fei would have directly killed the venerable of the Yang family. However, it couldn't be done on the Scattered Stars Island. Not to mention that if he really wanted to kill, the others would definitely not sit idly by. If a venerable died on the Scattered Stars Island and the weather changed, the sea demons would take action too. Therefore, Han Fei had a rough idea. The grand plan of the human race was of course more important than his own personal honor. At this moment, as soon as the venerable of the Chu sect left, the venerables of the Yang family and the Yi family naturally followed suit. Only the two venerables of the Grand Void Academy and the Jade Fairy Palace stayed. After all, the 7 academies were still somewhat related to the Thug Academy. They weren't enemies. Xue Shenqi didn't mind, and he said indifferently, "All right, since it has come to this, let's go to the estate and talk." In the city lord's mansion. As soon as the 4 of them took their seats, Xue Shenqi said, "Of the 3 just now, one is Chu Men and Chu Qing, an intermediate-level supremacy. Yang Kuan of the Yang family, an elementary venerable realm expert. Yi Kai of the Yi clan, a mid-level exalt realm expert. Now, there are 3 intermediate venerables on the Scattered Stars Island, including me. The other one is from the Heavenly Sword sect." While talking, Xue Shenqi glanced at Han Fei casually, implying, "Don't worry. The big families are not completely invincible." The Sky Sword sect had always been domineering. They would not allow the aristocratic families to send a few experts to suppress the others. Han Fei nodded slightly and looked at the 2 from the Jade Fairy Palace and the Grand Void Academy. Xue Shenqi said, "Elder Bingyun of the Jade Fairy Palace just entered the Venerable Realm, and her strength is comparable to mine. Ancestral Master Six Sword of the Grand Void Academy is at the peak of the Elementary Venerable Realm, and he may break through to the Intermediate Venerable Realm at any time." Han Fei cupped his hands. "Nice to meet you, seniors." The 2 of them returned the gesture. In fact, they also knew that Han Fei called them seniors because he was too young. In terms of age, it was not inappropriate to address them as seniors. However, Han Fei's growth was so rapid that they didn't dare to take it lightly. Han Fei couldn't help but ask, "Are there others?" Xue Shenqi, Sun Baixing of the Sun family, Chao Shuang of the Chao family, Jian Sanqing of the Heavenly Sword sect. Most of the people here were people who had lived in seclusion for a long time. "I'm afraid the only one you know is Sun Baixing." Han Fei was slightly surprised. "Sun Baixing has become a venerable?" Xue Shenqi, 2 years ago I just became a venerable." Han Fei didn't really care. He had just become a venerable. With his current strength, he should be able to kill him with a sneak attack. Even if it was a head-on battle, Sun Baixing wouldn't be able to withstand it easily. However, there were too many venerables on the Scattered Stars Island. The great battle had yet to begin, but many supremacies had arrived. If a venerable came from the Scattered Stars Island, the sea demons would naturally send experts over too. So, if his guess was right, those people were probably here for the Empyrean waterfall. Elder Bingyun of the Jade Fairy Palace said, "This time, the 2 of us won't disturb you. You are all new powerhouses. We don't know the situation very well. Since one of you has controlled the Scattered Stars Island for many years, and the other has the potential to become a king, let's talk more." In the Grand Void Academy, Grand Elder Six Sword also nodded slightly. "Goodbye." After the 2 left, Xue Shenqi waved his hand, and the city lord's mansion was closed. Seeing this, Han Fei quickly asked, "Where are the other venerables?" Xue Shenqi, Jian Sanqing of the Heavenly Sword sect is confronting a sea demon venerable on the ancient battlefield. Sun Baixing is guarding the periphery of the Twisted Jungle. Maybe he knows you have returned and doesn't want to meet you. Chao Shuang of the Chao family never asks about other things. When there is a great battle, he will naturally appear. Han Fei frowned. Has the current situation reached the point where the big families and the 7 major sects of the Thousand-Star City are going to send people down? Xue Shenqi looked at Han Fei's eyes and said, "What do you think?" Han Fei's heart sank. The Empyrean waterfall? Xue Shenqi nodded. Not only the big families, but also the 7 major sections. They have the same intention. It's just that they are a little better than the big families. Han Fei said, "What's the situation with the sea demons now? There are a lot of venerables and sea spirits here. A few years ago, more than 5,000 sea demons died on the ancient battlefield. It's only been a few years and they've recovered?" Xue Shenqi, about 2 years ago, a very widespread earthquake broke out near the 10,000 Demon Valley. The waves set off even impacted the area within 50,000 kilometers of the scattered stars island. Han Fei couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. The range of the earthquake exceeded 500,000 kilometers? Xue Shenqi shook his head slightly. I'm not very clear. When the waves reached the scattered stars island, they were not very strong. However, after that, 4 explorers died on the scattered stars island. They all went to explore in various directions, and none of them came back. Han Fei frowned. After all, the perception range of an explorer is limited. Since venerables came out of the 10,000 Demon Valley, it's normal that they died there. Xue Shenqi nodded. Yes. Since that time, I knew what happened to the 10,000 Demon Valley. Because I had a strong hunch, I found a strong master of the Heavenly Sword sect to protect me and entered the Venerable Realm. Later, I guessed that the 10,000 Demon Valley and the Sea Demon King City had made direct contact. Han Fei didn't care about the King City, but was quite curious about Xue Shenqi's strength. He asked in surprise, "You can become a venerable at any time?" Xue Shenqi said, "The longer you accumulate the Great Path, the smoother the path of Great Path will be." After a pause, Xue Shenqi said, "Later, 3 venerables raided the sea demons, and the Thousand-Star City also intervened at that time. At that time, your father and the Thug Academy had already hidden. So, I had to accept the people from the Thousand-Star City whether I wanted to or not. The good thing is that there are many venerables, but the bad thing is that these people are not sincere, and their target is the Empyrean waterfall." Han Fei took a breath. "Can't you find the location of the King City?" Xue Shenqi said with a straight face, "It must have appeared, but it can't be found. Now the Scattered Stars Island doesn't have the manpower to find it. Besides, even if it is found, so what? If a beginner venerable finds it, what do you think the result will be?" Han Fei certainly knew. The Scattered Stars Island couldn't be left unguarded. And the King City was an important place. If it was really found, there would definitely be many strong masters there. Besides, the King City was called the King City because of the existence of the giant deep-sea demons. Although the Yin-Yang Heaven might not have a king under the watch of the Eye of the Heavenly Law, it was still possible to have a half-king. Han Fei couldn't help but think of old Monster Chu sect. That guy must have reached the half-king realm. The Sky Dissecting Finger, the Heavenly Sword Master, and Old Han were all blocked by him, which showed his strength. If the Scattered Stars Island also had a half-king, they would have been destroyed in the blink of an eye. Why didn't he show up now? It didn't mean he wouldn't show up in the future. Han Fei couldn't help but remember that the venerable he killed had a sea map in his sun-moon shell. Others might not be able to come back alive if they found the King City, but he was different. He had the ability to come back. Even without the Gemini Divine Technique, he now had a bodyguard, didn't he? These thoughts flashed in Han Fei's mind, and he immediately said, "Should I go look for it?" Xue Shenqi shook his head slightly. "Even if you find it, what can you do? Besides, do you think there are any unknown places in this sea area? If there are, I'm afraid I have to tell you one thing. This sea area has a range. We are trapped in this world. It's like a giant seal has locked us here. Its range, roughly estimated to be about 8 million kilometers. In the past, many explorers had tried to get out of the seal. However, no one ever came out after they went in." Han Fei suddenly thought of something. "Wait, you mean we can enter the Wall of Death on our side?" "The Wall of Death?" Xue Shenqi's eyes narrowed. "You mean the name of this seal is the Wall of Death?" Han Fei didn't hide it. The Wall of Death, also known as the Chaotic Ocean. There is indeed a barrier there, like a ring-shaped belt, which hides ancient creatures and some fierce beasts that may have never appeared in this world. Not only on our side, but also on the other side, but in the Waterwood Heaven, we can't even get in. Xue Shenqi frowned. "What's the other side like?" Han Fei wanted to explain a little. In fact, there was nothing special about the Waterwood Heaven, just like the people of the Waterwood Heaven had long known that there was a Yin-Yang Heaven next door. However, when Han Fei was about to say that, suddenly, the entire City Master's mansion was enveloped by a powerful pressure. Xue Shenqi felt his body suddenly tightened, and he couldn't even stand up. A Grand Master? In Xue Shenqi's words, the so-called Grand Masters were high-level venerables or even peak-level venerables. Han Fei tilted his head and looked at the void, saying telepathically, "There's no need to make such a big noise, right?" No one knew where Peaceful was hiding, but her voice rippled here. Her Majesty said that we can't say anything before the two sides are connected. Han Fei shrugged. "But how about you withdraw the pressure first?" Swish. Xue Shenqi's back was already covered in a cold sweat. Suddenly, he felt relieved, and the pressure on his body lightened. After all, he was the supreme commander of the Scattered Stars Island and the God of War. He didn't get up immediately, nor did he look for Jing. Instead, he raised his eyelids and stared at Han Fei's eyes tightly. "Someone is coming over there?" Han Fei nodded. Xue Shenqi was also a smart man. He had already guessed it. Why would he hide it? So Han Fei said, "Don't worry, there's only one person on my side. Under normal circumstances, she won't take action." Xue Shenqi pondered for a long time. The existence of a supreme master in the yin-yang heaven was enough to change a lot of situations. Sure enough, Han Fei didn't go there for nothing. Now that he came back, there was such a strong master hiding behind him. Xue Shenqi asked, "How strong is she?" After all, Han Fei was the supreme commander. Xue Shenqi's first thought was not fear, but how to make use of this person. Han Fei said, "Half a king level, but don't think too much. She won't take action unless it's necessary." Xue Shenqi clenched his hands tighter in his sleeves. Obviously, he was shocked by Han Fei's strength. However, he quickly analyzed the pros and cons. Behind Han Fei, there was already a Thug Academy, Han Guanshu, and Ren Tianfei. At this moment, there was another half a king level. In this way, who could stop Han Fei from becoming a king? Secretly relieved, Xue Shenqi said calmly, "Okay, no one else will know about this." With that, Xue Shenqi raised his head, looked at the void and said lightly, "I hope you don't release your pressure at will. The situation here is complicated. The sudden appearance of a half-king level powerhouse will change the situation, which may not be a good thing for Han Fei." With that, Xue Shenqi looked at Han Fei again. "From today on, you will take over my position." Chapter 1378. Han Fei, who was calm at first, was shocked when he heard that he was going to take over Xue Shenqi's position. He was taken aback by the news. "I have no management experience at all." "Are you kidding me?" Han Fei hurriedly said, "No, wait a minute. Do I look like a leader to you?" Xue Shenqi said indifferently, "Don't forget your identity. It's you who wants to seize the throne, not me. Do you think you can steal the throne by hiding behind my back?" Han Fei shrugged. "Then I can do it after I take over your position? Besides, I don't know many aspects of the Scattered Stars Island, let alone the management. If I spend all my time managing this island, how can I have time to cultivate?" Xue Shenqi didn't step back but slowly got up, pointing to a red area on the sea map in the main hall of his mansion. "There's no time for you to prepare. This war will inevitably break out in a few months or half a year. Are you going to wait for the war to start before you take over the Scattered Stars Island?" Han Fei paused. "So, from the very beginning, you've been ready for me to take over the Scattered Stars Island?" Xue Shenqi shook his head slightly. "If you hadn't grown to this level, even if I had a deal with your father, I wouldn't have given the Scattered Stars Island to you easily." Han Fei pondered for a moment. "At least give me some buffer time." Xue Shenqi nodded. 3 days. Han Fei shook his head. "No, I have an idea. You can decide after listening to it." After a while, Xue Shenqi took a deep breath. What Han Fei said just now shocked him even more than having a half-king realm powerhouse following him. He could absorb demonic energy to cultivate? If this was known by others, such as the big clans in the Thousand-Star City, or even the 7 major sects, the consequences would be unimaginable. This reminded Xue Shenqi of a very old story. According to legend, in the history of mankind, there was a period of history when human beings pursued to become sea demons. At that stage, it was said that sea demons were transformed from human beings, and the two sides fought fiercely. Han Fei could absorb demonic energy to cultivate? This didn't make sense at all. Even Xue Shenqi couldn't help but feel a little horrified at this moment. What if he bet on the wrong person? After a long silence, Xue Shenqi said, "Don't tell anyone about this. Otherwise, I can't protect you. You'll be hunted by the entire Thousand-Star City. No one will be willing to give such great power to someone with a questionable identity." Han Fei grinned and said, "Trust me, you will be glad for the choice you made today." The reason why Han Fei told him such a secret was just to test Xue Shenqi. In Han Fei's opinion, Xue Shenqi was completely on his side. It seemed like he had no other choice. However, Han Fei couldn't be sure. If even the highest commander on the Scattered Stars Island didn't trust him, what would happen in the future? What would the consequences be? Han Fei would certainly fight for the king's corpse. And Han Fei didn't intend to wait until the final battle broke out to grab the king's corpse. Therefore, he was prepared to act now. Since he had the ability to use the demonic aura to cultivate, he could naturally absorb it. There was no need for him to give it to the sea demons or exchange it for resources with them. In fact, when he obtained the Gemini Divine Technique, he gradually had this idea. The old turtle under the Empyrean waterfall could accumulate spirit awakening fluid and other things from that pit. Then, this meant that the outside world was related to the place where the king's corpse was sealed. Han Fei believed that with his current strength, it was not impossible for him to dive into the pool and snatch the king's corpse first. However, this idea required the cooperation of others. It was not just the cooperation of the turtle under the pool. Xue Shenqi had been in charge of the Scattered Stars Island for many years and knew this place very well. It would be for the best if they could get his cooperation. Therefore, Han Fei took the risk and leaked some secrets that were actually unimportant in the first place. Han Fei disappeared from the city lord's mansion. Although Chu Qing, Yang Kuan, and the others had left the vicinity, the perception range of the Venerables was extremely large. As the top powerhouses on the Scattered Stars Island, their strength even exceeded Xue Shenqi's. Therefore, their soul perception had never left the city lord's mansion. The time of Han Fei's return was too coincidental. He didn't come back earlier or later, but on the eve of the outbreak of the war. What if there was no problem? These Venerables naturally didn't believe it. Besides, Han Fei's strength was too terrifying. With the power of an advanced explorer, he beat Yang Kuan to the point that he couldn't fight back, and he had also comprehended the law of confinement. This law of confinement was too terrifying. Just imagine, if a Venerable was sealed in this area, could he really fight with only his physical strength? Therefore, no matter what, they would not let Han Fei leave their sight. But after a long time, Xue Shenqi had already left the city lord's mansion to patrol the battlefield and ask around. But Han Fei seemed to have disappeared. Realizing that something was wrong, Chu Qing stepped into the city lord's mansion, and his heart sank. "No one is here?" Chu Qing immediately asked, "General Xue, where did Han Fei go?" Xue Shenqi smiled and said disdainfully, "On the Scattered Stars Island, everyone has their own things to do. As the commander, although the Star Order token hasn't been given to him, Han Fei also has his own things to do. You don't have to worry about it." Yi Kai, the venerable of the Yi family, heard the conversation between the two and couldn't help but ask, "General Xue, do you know what you are doing?" Xue Shenqi said with a straight face, "Of course I know what I am doing. What I'm afraid of is that you don't know what you are doing, right? On the Scattered Stars Island, I'm the Supreme Commander and the God of War. Even if you are advanced venerables, you have to behave yourself. Otherwise, the people of the entire Scattered Stars Island will teach you a lesson." Even if the strength of a commander-level figure was not that strong, these idle venerables who lived a comfortable life in the big families in the Thousand-Star City couldn't compare to him. On this Scattered Stars Island, Xue Shenqi's word was heaven and earth. If they dared to attack Xue Shenqi, it would be they who buried and destroyed the Scattered Stars Island. At that time, the big families would become the enemies of the world. No matter how many strong masters there were, they would eventually be destroyed in the hearts of all humans. If they wanted to travel in the Yin-Yang heaven someday, that was because he had to face being hunted by anyone at all times. Yang Kuan asked, "What should we do now?" Shui Shenqi does whatever he wants. He has been in charge of the Scattered Stars Island for so many years and has never cared about us. Now, is he going to turn against us? Yi Kai also said with an ugly face, Han Fei is a big threat. His growth is too fast, and the growth of his strength is even more terrifying. How many years has it been? He is already so strong. If we give him a few more years and he becomes a venerable, what will happen? Chu Qing snorted coldly. How can it be so simple to become a venerable? Don't think too much. However, Han Fei is indeed a monster. We still need to report this matter to our clan. Now, what are Shui Shenqi and Han Fei plotting? That's what I'm most worried about. Yang Kuan said, who cares what they are plotting? How can Han Fei not come out when the war starts? Isn't he going to become a king? He claims to be a king. How can he ignore the affairs of the Scattered Stars Island? Chu Qing and the others complained, but they couldn't find Han Fei and didn't know where to start. Just as they were complaining, under the Empyrean waterfall, a black mist drilled into this deep pool. Han Fei even saw Big Yellow, who was eating fish on a stone. Big Yellow nibbled the fish from time to time and looked in the direction of the entrance of the Empyrean waterfall from time to time, muttering to himself, I heard that Han Fei seems to be back. Han Fei wondered, didn't Granny Yin become a law enforcer long ago? Why is Big Yellow still here? However, this was not a good time to meet him. He could go on a killing spree and return with a high profile, but he couldn't be under the watch of others all the time. Otherwise, even cultivation and breakthroughs would become a problem. Han Fei didn't want to take over the war as soon as he came back. Up to now, the situation in the 10,000 Demon Valley was unknown. If he took over the Scattered Stars Island, he might not even have time to go to the outer sea. Then how could he find out the situation in the 10,000 Demon Valley? How much time was left before the war? After all, how long could the old turtle at the bottom of the pool suppress him? After a moment, the black shadow Han Fei drilled not far from the old turtle. Because at this moment, Han Fei was pure black, and the old turtle didn't notice him at all. At this moment, it was the first time that Han Fei met this old turtle face to face. Information emerged in his eyes. Name 1000 Mark Star Turtle. Introduction, the legendary turtle of seals. This turtle shell is covered with strange patterns, like thousands of intertwining hands. It's actually a natural seal that can suppress all kinds of laws. Star turtles are born with arrays and are good at sealing, escaping, and fighting. They are extremely rare. Levels 79 Quality, Legendary Law Enforcement, Law of Gravity, contains spiritual energy greater than 189,808 points. Edible effect, there is a certain chance that it can be used in arrays. Collectible Seal Pearl, Unabsorbable. Note, those who are not array masters should try not to be enemies with the 1000 Mark Star Turtle. Wow, legendary? After reading the information of this old turtle, even Han Fei was shocked. He didn't expect this old turtle to be a legendary creature. This was the second legendary creature that Han Fei encountered in the wild. The last time was under the Ice God Gorge, and he encountered the tri-light blazing cold lobster. But now, it was under the Empyrean waterfall. He was truly a great hermit hiding in the world. No wonder legendary creatures were always hard to find. The old turtle couldn't help but exclaim, wow. This 1000 Mark Star Turtle? Han Fei asked in surprise, you know it too? The old turtle immediately said, of course. This is my turtle heritage. I've seen a king-level star turtle that can suppress the sea and seal the sky. It's almost as powerful as me. Han Fei, can I possess this turtle? Han Fei immediately shouted in his heart, don't even think about it. This tortoise is a benefactor to us humans. It has been suppressed here for tens of millions of years, so how could we let you possess it? What do you take me for? The old turtle said, think about it. If I possess this turtle, I can become a venerable in a few days. With my heritage, I can reach the advanced venerable realm in 10 years at most. Wouldn't it be a great help to you? Han Fei snorted. I don't need it. Old turtle, remember this. Although I am evil and arrogant in the eyes of the sea monsters, I am a legend and a heavenly talent in the human race. However, in the human race, I'm a legend, a heavenly talent, and even their king. As a king, I won't allow you to attack those who have helped the human race. No one. First update. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 1379. At the bottom of the Empyrean waterfall. The 1,000-mark star turtle's eyes were still closed. Inside its body, power was surging occasionally. But then, a yellowish-white pattern that looked like an arm would light up on the turtle's body. Immediately after, the energy that was about to surge out was forcefully suppressed, and everything returned to normal once again. Han Fei couldn't help but have a mixed feeling. If his guess was right, this star turtle must have become a semi-venerable. Also, it was about to make a breakthrough. Han Fei could even imagine that if this turtle became a venerable, it would cause a huge commotion. Also, because it had absorbed the power of the deep-sea demon here for too long, it wouldn't be weak if it made a breakthrough. The 1,000-mark star turtle didn't know that someone was in front of it yet. Suddenly, an astral tidal plate appeared in the middle of the water. The 1,000-mark star tortoise suddenly opened its eyes and scanned the token in front of it. But then, its eyeballs began to shake, as if it were looking for something. Han Fei said, "Senior Turtle, don't make any noise. I'm Han Fei." Han Fei used to live next to the waterfall and stayed with this old turtle for a while. Although they didn't have much contact, the star turtle's senses were far better than Han Fei's at that time. The old turtle actually knew Han Fei's life in the Empyrean waterfall. Also, Han Fei had made deals with this old turtle more than once. Therefore, when Han Fei's name appeared, the old turtle seemed to be slightly relieved. The old turtle asked, "Where are you?" Han Fei said, "I'm 10 meters away from you. Don't use your eyes. Just scan with your senses." In the next second, Han Fei sensed that someone's perception scanned him quickly from left to right. After scanning dozens of times, the star turtle finally said, "In front of me, there's only a black substance that can't be seen by the naked eye or even detected by my senses. Are you really Han Fei?" Han Fei said, "If you don't trust me, you should recognize Marshal Shue's 13-star badge, right? This badge is his keepsake." The old turtle said softly, "Okay, I trust you. Recently, a lot of venerables have come to the island. If you were an enemy, it would be impossible for you to steal Shueishenqi's star insignia token without anyone noticing." The old turtle continued, "Shueishenqi's order is the highest order on the island. Tell me, what is your purpose?" Han Fei said, "No problem. I want to go to the cave below you." The star tortoise was stunned and couldn't help saying, "Didn't he tell you that I can't leave this place at all? If I leave even a little, it might cause the mountain to shake, and it might even cause the seal to break in advance." Han Fei said, "I know, but look at my current state. I'm no different from this pool. Even if there is a tiny crack, I can squeeze in. If it really doesn't work, I can drill a small hole in your body and go down." The star tortoise was surprised. "Even a small crack? A small hole the size of a drop of water will do." The star tortoise pondered for a moment, then said, "Even if you can go down, I have the 1,000-fold seal below me. If you go down, you won't be able to come out. You'll have to wait until I become a venerable before you can leave." Han Fei said, "Marshal Shui has already told me about that. I have my ways to come back." The star tortoise said, "There's one more thing. Do you know that it's not a sea expansion king, but a deep-sea giant demon? Demonic chi is surging down there, and the tentacles are still alive. If you go down as a human, I'm afraid you'll be stuffed to death." Han Fei said, "It doesn't matter. Just give me a small opening and let me go down. I have my ways to keep myself alive. Also, Senior Tortoise, since I'm here for you, I'll stand on your side when the seal is broken. Otherwise, on the day of breaking the seal, it would not be enough to have only Marshal Shui as a supremacy to protect you. I have the strength of a venerable too. Can I protect you?" The strength of a venerable? The 1,000-seal star tortoise felt that it had heard something strange. "How many years has it been? You were only a human hidden fisher when you first came here, and only 10 years have passed? You're telling me that you have the strength of a venerable? Han Fei said, Senior Tortoise, you'll know everything when I get to the cave below you. The 1,000-seal star tortoise sent out a thought, and the 13-star token flew to its eyes. The 1,000-seal star tortoise said to the token, Did you give this token to him? Shueishenqi's voice came from the token. Yes, this is a secret plan. Only you, me, and Han Fei know it. Do you want to wait for the day when the seal is broken, when the sea demon venerable attacks and the human venerables covets you? At that time, who would protect you? If you can break this broken body now, it'll just be a fake show. By then, there will be more than 1 or 2 people protecting you. The old tortoise said, Okay, I believe you. Having dealt with Shueishenqi for so long, the 1,000-seal star tortoise knew that Shueishenqi was not a problem. It also knew that Shueishenqi only had one purpose, which was to destroy the sea demons. He was different from the venerables who had come recently. Besides, after a long time, the old tortoise even knew that not all human beings were on their side. In this world, there were definitely people who were afraid of death. Even a venerable or a venerable family would still surrender to the sea demons in the face of absolute strength. In fact, the old tortoise turned its back on the sea demons because it couldn't stand the behavior of some sea demons. The old tortoise didn't want to see the sea demons unify the world and destroy other races. All of this just represented the interests of a small group of people. Removing the seal, the star tortoise returned the token to Han Fei and said, Come into my mouth. Han Fei immediately surged, and seeing the star tortoise open its mouth slightly, he directly crawled in. At this moment, Han Fei also felt that someone's perception was scanning this place. There was no one else except a venerable who could explore this place at will. Han Fei didn't know which venerable it was. However, neither he nor the star tortoise would give the venerable a chance to explore it. There was a crack under the shell of the star tortoise, which was formed by the impact of the power of the giant deep-sea demon all year round. The old tortoise would also absorb the spirit awakening fluid from these cracks every day. Han Fei's body of black fog soon drilled into the crack in the flesh. Then he saw a bit of green liquid flowing in. If it wasn't the spirit awakening fluid, what was it? Han Fei couldn't help but wonder, Senior Tortoise, since there is spirit awakening fluid under your body, why don't you take more? Scatter it in the hands of countless humans on the scattered stars island? That can also reduce the pressure on you. The star tortoise said, Although I'm here, it doesn't mean that I can absorb as much as I want from the crack. Once I absorb too much, it will be easy for me to let more king demonic energy rush into my body. Then it will be even harder for me to control myself, which will greatly reduce the time to break the seal. Han Fei didn't think it made sense. With a thought, a cloud of white mist suddenly appeared. The Gemini Divine technique was also a forbidden breaking technique. One body was outside and the other was inside, just like the star teleportation technique. As long as the space was not completely sealed, he could escape. The black fog body was hard to find, and the white fog body could sneak in. That was Han Fei's plan. The star tortoise asked in surprise, An incarnation? Han Fei said, You don't have to worry about that. I'll live in your body for a while. Then Han Fei said straightforwardly, Senior, I'm going over. When Han Fei's wisp of white mist crawled into the crack that was as small as a fingernail, he immediately felt a terrifying power rushing into his body. Even though he was in the form of white mist, Han Fei still felt that even his soul was dizzy. The star tortoise said, Guard your mind. Don't make my crack bigger. Crawl down slowly. Han Fei thought to himself, Calabash, absorb it. Before he came, Han Fei had already turned into a half-mermaid. Also, because his demonic heritage was extremely high, it had exceeded the boundary of mortal heritage. So, he was only dizzy when he was overwhelmed by the demonic energy at the beginning. Han Fei, on the other hand, said while crawling out, Senior Tortoise, since there is so much demonic energy down there, why do you still want demonic stones? The star tortoise said, You'll know when you reach the bottom of this cave. Han Fei didn't know what was going on. After half an hour, he finally crawled out of the tiny gap. When Han Fei was completely immersed in the pit that was filled with spirit-awakening fluid and demonic energy, he had complicated feelings. Damn it! Can a king produce so much spirit-awakening fluid? Han Fei was about to ask the old tortoise, when he felt that a gossamer power was crawling into his body together with the demonic energy. Han Fei immediately said, "Old Yuan, don't go too far. I haven't eaten it yet, and you're already doing it?" The old tortoise said, "Han Fei, this place is very suitable for me to recover. There is some chaotic chi here that you can't use at all. Why don't you give it to me? I can give you a hand at a critical moment." Chaotic chi? Han Fei slightly frowned. "How do you know that I can't use it?" Although it was a question, Han Fei didn't stop the old tortoise. Last time, the guy was hit on the back by the demon purification pot, and even his shell was cracked. If this old guy was smart, he wouldn't have done it this time. Besides, Han Fei also believed that although the old tortoise could steal some things from the outside world, he couldn't resist the suppression of the demon purification pot. So, he didn't really care. Han Fei's misty body quickly turned into a half-mermaid. Because he was used to the appearance of the Fish Dragon King, he still looked like the Fish Dragon King. Although the Star Tortoise noticed that Han Fei had changed, it only changed from a misty form to a human form. In its opinion, it was quite amazing that this amazing technique could change forms at will. It had the ability to fuse with special contractual spiritual beasts. But what surprised him more was not the ability to transform. The Star Tortoise was surprised. "You can completely resist the terrifying scourge of demonic energy?" Han Fei grinned and thought to himself, "How can I resist it?" His body was already swollen. A tremendous amount of demonic energy had begun to be injected into Forge the Universe. Seizing this opportunity, Han Fei crawled to the bottom of the pit with a swish. He wanted to use a power like the closed distance technique, but he suddenly found that he couldn't use the closed distance technique, the star shifting technique, or even the heavenly illusionary divine walking technique. The old tortoise said, "Don't try. You can't use any of these powers under the suppression of the king's Taoist aura. I feel that there are a lot of demonic energy crystals below. That thing is not bad. You can take it." Han Fei was releasing demonic energy, which condensed into a dazzling shield. Since the demonic energy was so rich, Han Fei didn't care about the demonic energy at all. Not only that, Han Fei waved his hand, and hundreds of sea-swallowing seashells appeared. A large amount of spirit-awakening fluid was crazily poured into the sea-swallowing seashells. This was much easier than stealing spirit-awakening fluid from the undersea smoke. He was now soaking in seawater diluted with spirit-awakening fluid. It was not an exaggeration to say that the seawater was spirit-awakening fluid. Other people wanted spirit-awakening fluid? That was a caddy at a caddy. And he wanted spirit-awakening fluid? They came by the ton. Oh no, now it was all sea-swallowing seashells one by one. The amount of spirit-awakening fluid that could be contained in a sea-swallowing seashell had already exceeded the total amount of an undersea chimney. In other words, any random sea-swallowing seashell contained 1,000,000 kilograms of spirit-awakening fluid. This number really scared Han Fei. Damn, it turns out that spirit-awakening fluid is so worthless? The total amount of these 100 sea-swallowing seashells added up would probably be hundreds of millions of kilograms of spirit-awakening fluid. Of course, this spirit-awakening fluid was not as thick as pure spirit-awakening fluid. If the diluted part was removed, about 1/5 of it would be left. However, even so, it would still be 20 million kilograms. Han Fei wondered, even a king can't release so much spirit-awakening fluid at once, right? I'm afraid it's accumulated over countless years. Huff! The Star Tortoise heaved a long sigh, feeling that the pressure was greatly reduced. Han Fei, hurry up and collect all the spirit-awakening fluid. If you had told me you were capable of this, I would have let you in a long time ago. Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 1380. Han Fei controlled the sea-swallowing seashells with the void lines. He, on the other hand, was quickly swimming to the bottom of the cave. As he swam, Han Fei's body became fatter. The cave wasn't large at first, with a radius of no more than 300 meters. The walls around the cave had been jade-like and formed a solid barrier of demonic qi. Han Fei even suspected that the terrifying demonic qi could probably cover the entire Scattered Stars Island if this place was exposed. After swimming for another 20 kilometers, Han Fei suddenly found that a demonic stone had appeared in front of him. Huh! Information popped up in Han Fei's eyes. Name: Ultra-Quality Demonic Stone. Introduction. This is made of the essence of spiritual liquid and demonic qi. It contains tremendous spiritual energy and demonic qi. However, the demonic qi is violent and conflicts with regular demonic qi, so it's very difficult to absorb. Spiritual energy greater than 560,666 points. Effect: Inedible. Han Fei was dumbfounded when he saw that. Not because of one ultra-quality demonic stone, but because the number of ultra-quality demonic stones had filled up the entire bottom of the cave. Damn it, Han Fei had never seen such a scene before. There was a reason why the spirit awakening fluid and demonic stones appeared at the same time. At this moment, the star tortoise said, "Do you know why I need so many demonic stones now? I don't need ultra-quality demonic stones. I only need regular demonic stones. As long as I throw the regular low-level demonic stones into it, I can absorb demonic qi and relieve some of my pressure." Han Fei picked up an ultra-quality demonic stone and observed it while he asked, "How do you throw it? Can you throw it into the gap between your fingernails?" The star tortoise said, "I just need to eat it and poop it out, right?" Han Fei couldn't have felt better. He thought to himself, "Are you implying that you poop out all these ultra-quality demonic stones? Fuck you. Did I just rush into your shit pit?" The star tortoise was stunned too. He roared angrily, "What's with your reaction? I don't poop. I'm a half-venerable expert, all right?" Han Fei simply covered his body with demonic qi and held back his disgust. As long as there were treasures in the cesspit, why couldn't he go down? However, Han Fei asked in confusion, "Wait, if that was the case, why didn't they use this method before? In this way, won't we be able to clear this place in an endless cycle?" Star Tortoise, if you didn't have the ability to split into two, you wouldn't have dared to come in. After all, the sea race and humans are two different races with different cultivation methods. Not everyone can be like you, who can even devour demonic qi. Once they were unable to devour it, they would clash with each other until their bodies exploded. Even venerable ones are no exception. Can't you clean it up? The star tortoise continued, "In the past, people who were about to die used this method to enter this place. You intend to help me clean this place with your sea-swallowing seashell." Unfortunately, when he went in and was still alive, he could indeed clean it up. However, once he died, his sea-swallowing seashells and sun-moon shells would be corroded by the king's power. When the massive amount of energy surged out, the impact on this turtle was even greater. Hearing the star tortoise's explanation, Han Fei realized that it was really weird. These were all real ultra-quality demonic stones. Once he used the body of a sea demon, he could immediately use it for cultivation, and it would be endless. Han Fei took out a sun-moon shell. Collect. The massive amount of ultra-quality demonic stones disappeared in large swathes. After sinking for nearly hundreds of meters, a sun-moon shell was finally filled up. The space of the sun-moon shell was completely different from that of a sea-swallowing seashell. The largest sun-moon shell was hundreds of thousands of times larger than a sea-swallowing seashell. Han Fei took a quick look and found that he had collected more than 100,000 ultra-quality demonic stones. Han Fei couldn't help but scratch his scalp. He was stunned by this number. What did this mean? There was not much difference between ultra-quality demonic stones and ultra-quality spiritual stones. Maybe others couldn't use them, but he could. After all, he could transform into a sea demon. These 100,000 ultra-quality demonic plants were equivalent to a total amount of 50 billion demonic qi. In other words, this was the greatest opportunity he had ever received in his life. The demonic qi was probably inexhaustible. Besides, he wasn't done yet. Han Fei took out another Sun Moon shell and absorbed it crazily again. After sinking for another 600 meters, he finally collected all the demonic stones. At this moment, Han Fei's net worth exploded. The total amount of demonic chi exceeded 100 billion. What the fuck did this mean? No wonder the sea demons wanted to take down the Scattered Stars Island. Just the amount of demonic chi in this place alone had reached a shocking figure. Even so, Han Fei hadn't counted the circle of jade-like rock walls. After the last ultra-quality demonic stone was absorbed by Han Fei, the star tortoise heaved a sigh of relief. If you had this ability 10 years ago, I could have held on for another 100 years. It's a pity that you came too late. Even if you have collected all the ultra-quality demonic stones here, I can't hold on for long because I've reached my limit. At this moment, Han Fei's body had become much fatter. This had nothing to do with demonic chi. It was the energy contained in demonic chi and spirit awakening fluid. Every time it washed him, some would be left. As a result, he felt that his body was being instilled with energy crazily as soon as he came in. If it weren't for the demon purification pot, he would have exploded and died. The old turtle said, "Han Fei boy, if you don't mind, you can let me absorb this energy for a while. This can also save you from the difficulty of digesting the energy that enters your body." Han Fei was speechless. "That's very thoughtful of you. Fine, if you have this ability, you can absorb it. But the absorption can't be too fast or excessive. It has to be similar to the normal absorption of my body." The old turtle nodded. "No problem." Then Han Fei felt that the energy that melted into his body formed a vortex between his eyebrows and was quickly absorbed by the old turtle. And the environment here wouldn't suppress his energy anymore. Han Fei thought to himself, this place is too fucking suitable for cultivation. He had just come in and hadn't seen the corpse of the giant deep-sea demon yet, but he had already gained so many benefits. What else was down there? Han Fei didn't even dare to imagine it. Further down, there was a green mist. Han Fei extracted the water in the sea, swallowing seashells filled with spirit awakening fluid one by one, leaving only the pure spirit awakening fluid. Han Fei's water control technique was very good, so this was not a big problem. It only took half an hour for Han Fei to fill up 100 sea-swallowing seashells. However, the lower he went, the more rapidly the concentration of spirit awakening fluid dropped. If it was 20% before, now it might even be less than 5%. When he clearly realized that the concentration of spirit awakening fluid was dropping rapidly, Han Fei stopped collecting. Then he stuffed the sea-swallowing seashells and the sun moon shells into Forge the Universe. Han Fei's eyes were also fixed on the misty green cave. Han Fei took a breath, knowing that although he had gained a lot of benefits by collecting the spirit awakening fluid and the ultra-quality demonic stones, the real benefit was the corpse. A corpse coveted by the experts of the Sea Demon King City and the Thousand Star City was now placed in front of him. How could Han Fei let it go? Puff! Han Fei plunged into the misty green mist. However, when Han Fei plunged into this mist, he suddenly felt a terrifying and boundless pressure suddenly fell on him. Not good, it's the pressure of a king. Han Fei immediately vomited a mouthful of blood, and the invincible will instantly condensed into a golden body phantom. He wanted to use the power of Law Enforcer, but he couldn't use it at all. The meridians all over Han Fei's body bulged, and he suddenly jumped out of the green mist. Han Fei was horrified. "Old Yuan, do you feel it? Is that the pressure of a king?" The old turtle said, "It's indeed beyond my expectations. It's not just the pressure of an ordinary king. The strength of this giant deep-sea demon should not be weak. Not to say it has reached the peak stage of the sea expansion realm, but it should be in the middle or high realm. Although you are not weak now, your realm is still low. Although your soul is strong, it is still too weak compared to a king. And tens of thousands of years of king aura have accumulated here. It's reasonable that you can't bear it for a while. You have to get used to it slowly. Don't be too hasty." Han Fei's heart sank. He had planned to sneak away the king's corpse first, but now, it seemed to be a different story. However, he was still a little unable to withstand this force. Han Fei immediately said, "No, it's not easy for me to come here. I can't go back like this. Otherwise, it won't affect the overall situation. Old Yuan, I have to make a breakthrough." The old turtle was speechless. "You still want to make a breakthrough? In just 3 years, you have almost crossed a whole big realm. If you make another breakthrough, you will grow too fast and your foundation will be unstable." Han Fei looked solemn. "My foundation is unstable? I know it myself. In the past 2 years, I have been fighting and polishing my foundation. Although there may be some shortcomings, as long as I don't rush to the peak, it won't affect me much." The old turtle said, "If you want to make a breakthrough now, you can do it here, but you have to experience the polishing of the king's pressure first. In this way, if you can hold on for these 3 months, it's not impossible for you to reach the peak." Looking at the misty green mist, Han Fei sat cross-legged on it. Just like that, he could feel a pressure that could topple mountains and overturn seas. However, fortunately, the pressure didn't directly rush into his meridians. Therefore, he could still bear the pressure. It was not too exaggerated. After all, his real body and soul were indeed comparable to that of a venerable. The star turtle asked, "How about it? Can you break through the king's pressure?" Han Fei said casually, "I'm not in a hurry. Let me get used to it for a few days." Han Fei frowned slightly and moved his body bit by bit into the green misty king's pressure. In his body, the demon god scripture was running, and the surrounding demonic energy was crazily pouring into his body. With so many ultra-quality demonic stones, Han Fei naturally didn't care about the demonic energy. However, he still had to make a breakthrough with the demonic energy. Although it was not a breakthrough from an advanced explorer to an advanced peak level, his strength would certainly be improved. His combat power, soul, and physique would all grow, and he could swallow a lot of power. Because Han Fei's physique was too strong, if he wanted to make a breakthrough, he had to cleanse his body, temper his soul, and stretch his spiritual heritage, which was far more than ordinary people could compare. This place could also be called an excellent place for a breakthrough. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. That you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.